Chapter 524 Establishing a Kingdom, 2, Cronin asked in a deep voice. There were only him and Floyd here now, so he didn't care about some things and said them directly. Don't I feel sorry? Floyd was disdainful in his heart, but he pretended to be shocked. Then he said arrogantly, Our Netherbark kingdom is supported by the divine power of death. If that human lord dares to attack, well, let him have a taste of being cursed by the divine power of death. When the time comes, he might not even dare to take half a step into our country. If he really dares to come over, don't blame me for taking the race divine artifact in his hand. The news that the Lord of the Blazing Sun had a divine artifact of the race had already been spread through the entire channel by the Lord of the Myriad Races, and many life forms knew about it. The Netherbark Kingdom was naturally one of them. The news that the Lord of the Blazing Sun had a divine artifact of the race had already been spread through the entire channel by the Lord of the Myriad Races, and many life forms knew about it. If he could snatch this race divine artifact and offer it to the god of death, perhaps he could take another step forward and become the Elven of Death by the god of death's side. When the time comes, the position of Pope that he had fought so hard for would be like child's play. On the other side, Pope Cronin did not refute Floyd's words. Take care of yourself. I hope that the Netherbark Kingdom can develop better in your hands. Cronin looked at Sakamo's clothes and belongings in the coffin and turned to walk towards the door. From the back, he seemed to have aged a lot. Floyd narrowed his eyes as he watched Cronin leave. What bad idea was this old thing thinking of to deal with me? After fighting with the old Pope for so many years, he would not easily judge his true thoughts just because of his outward behavior. At this moment, the two of them suddenly sensed something and looked in the direction of Blazing Sun City. Someone's founded a kingdom. It should be that human lord. TSK, I don't need to think so much. I'm just an old man who has lost his position as Pope. Cronin left without looking back. The new Pope Floyd frowned. Originally he was in a good mood because he had become the new Pope, but now, because of the new human kingdom, his mood had become much worse. Lord of the Blazing Sun, race divine artifact. Floyd's deep voice came from the temple. In the Blazing Sun City, Zhou naturally did not know that so many other life forms had so many other thoughts, just as he was about to establish a kingdom. He was looking at the text notification that appeared in front of him. Kingdom notification. Lord of the Blazing Sun, you have used the kingdom token. Do you want to officially upgrade your territory to a kingdom-level lord's territory? Yes, Zhou immediately said. Do you wish to use the Blazing Sun territory, extraordinary tier regional territory, as your royal capital region? Yes, please set your kingdom name the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou was already prepared for this, and immediately replied. Your world channel ID has changed. Your current world channel ID is Blazing Sun Kingdom, Lord of the Blazing Sun. You have successfully established your own kingdom. The announcement that Zhou had been waiting for finally appeared. Lord of all races Lord announcement. Congratulations to the human race, Lord of the Blazing Sun, for successfully establishing the first kingdom. Rewards. Mythical tier treasure chest +1, Novice Kingdom treasure chest +1. Reputation rating +10. Mythical reputation rating +1. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race, Lord of the Blazing Sun. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race, Lord of the Blazing Sun. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. His heart was filled with joy. Finally, the kingdom that I have been longing for is finally established. At this moment, the text notification appeared again. Novice King Hint 1. Your kingdom has just been established. Your reputation will gradually spread in the nearby area. The living beings in the area will gradually know of your kingdom's existence. Please be prepared to deal with the subsequent kingdom affairs. Novice King Hint 2. You have the authority to establish a kingdom channel. This kingdom channel can accommodate up to 100 million subjects. Novice King Hint 3. You have the authority to publish the kingdom announcement. After publishing the kingdom announcement, all subjects in the kingdom channel will be informed of the news you released immediately. Novice King Hint 4. The kingdom channel is only owned by the lords of the myriad races. The local lords cannot own the Kingdom Channel. Kingdom Channel? Kingdom announcement? Only the Lord of all races have it. Other local lords can't have it? Zhou eyes lit up. So this is the rights of a kingdom? Indeed. It is too different from being an ordinary lord of all races. He looked at the bottom left corner of his field of vision. As expected, he found a new icon in the middle of the World Channel and the marketplace. This icon had a simple king character, and behind it was a golden flag. It was the icon of the Kingdom Channel. Zhou opened it. He realized that this Kingdom Channel was very similar to the World Channel of the Lord of Cerulean Planet. There were 3 functions: personal information, Kingdom Channel, and friend list. However, it lacked the most important function of the marketplace. Zhou felt that it was a pity. During his growth, the marketplace had definitely played a role that was not inferior to the legendary tier lord talent. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the Kingdom Channel. Otherwise, his subjects would be much more comfortable. In addition to these functions, Zhou also discovered a Kingdom Channel function that belonged solely to him. King function. Zhou opened it. He discovered that this king function had a series of functions such as silence, chat administrator, setting, publishing the kingdom announcement, searching for subject information. It looked quite complete. Zhou clicked on one of the subject joining functions and saw a full page of subject names appear in front of him. There were 100 people on each page. Zhou looked at the bottom page and realized that there were more than 110,000 pages. In other words, there were more than 11 million people. There were about 4 million subjects under him. These 11 million people should include the lords and subjects under his command. Zhou chose all the subjects and pulled them in. Right on the heels of that, Zhou saw the number of subjects in the Kingdom Channel jump from 0 to 54,612. The next second, it directly rose to 227,786. In the next moment, more than 10 million people joined his Kingdom Channel. The others who hadn't joined yet probably hadn't realized what was going on, so they didn't dare to join rashly. Thinking of this, he opened the kingdom announcement. After thinking for a while, he began to fill in the contents of the announcement. He finished writing it in no time and chose to publish it. All the subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, including the lords of the Star Alliance and their subordinates, suddenly saw rows of text notifications. Blazing Sun Kingdom announcement. Subjects, I have good news for everyone. From today onwards, our Blazing Sun territory has officially advanced from an ordinary lord's territory to a kingdom-level lord's territory. We are the first lord faction among the lord of all races to advance to the territory of a kingdom-level lord. This means that we are at the forefront of the lord of all races. This is the glory that belongs to all the subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. In addition, you should have seen the Kingdom Channel's invitation that just appeared. Everyone, don't be afraid. I posted this. You can just enter normally. In the future, you can communicate normally on this channel and can even exchange information. In order to celebrate the founding of the kingdom, all the items in the territory contribution system would be exchanged at a 50% discount for a month from today onwards. In a month, the price will return to normal. I hope that all subjects will seize the opportunity to increase their strength and better survive on the high continent. The Blazing Sun territory. All the subjects who saw this kingdom announcement were stunned at first before erupting with joy. As subjects of the Blazing Sun territory, they knew very well how many good things there were in their exchange system, especially the military merit exchange system. Now their lord. No, His Majesty the King was actually willing to sell it at a 50% discount. It was as if they could already see their strength and family background rapidly increasing in the future. Chapter 525 Hero Slot Advancement Book. After Zhou released the kingdom announcement, he immediately looked at the Kingdom Channel. At this moment, the Kingdom Channel was already bustling with activity. Many subjects who had just arrived were cheering for the official advancement of the Blazing Sun territory to a kingdom faction. At the same time, they were also amazed by the wonders of the Kingdom Channel. Of course, the latter's subjects did not include Linger, the Green Phoenix Lord, and the other lords of the myriad races in their subordinate territory. They had already experienced the world channel of the Lord of Cerulean Planet, so their reaction to the familiar functions of the Kingdom Channel was naturally mediocre. But even so, they were a little surprised that the lords of all races could actually obtain the authority to establish a Kingdom Channel after establishing a kingdom. Because of this, the Lord of the Blazing Sun's status in their hearts skyrocketed once again. At this moment, many lords of the Star Alliance had already gone to the World Channel to show off. Zhou smiled at this. He was not in a hurry to see the reactions of the lords of Cerulean Planet on the World Channel. Instead, he looked at the current number of subjects on the Kingdom Channel. The number of subjects in the Kingdom Channel had already reached 11,251,563. Zhou nodded slightly. This number meant that almost all his subjects had entered his Kingdom Channel. The Kingdom Channel has a maximum number of 100 million subjects. I shouldn't have to worry about exceeding the limit for the time being, Zhou thought to himself. In addition, even if he surpassed them in the future, he did not think it would matter. There was a limit of 100 million subjects in a beginner kingdom. After reaching the intermediate kingdom, or even higher, the upper limit of the number of subjects in this Kingdom Channel should increase. He stopped thinking and opened the World Channel of the Lord of Cerulean Planet. It was not beyond his expectations. At this moment, the entire World Channel was discussing the matter of him establishing a kingdom. Awesome! The first kingdom of the Cerulean Planet Lords. It's also the first kingdom of the entire Lord of all races. Big Boss Blazing Sun is fucking awesome. Shouts at the top of my lungs. He has earned a lot of face. Dragon Lady Lord. All Lord members of the Dragon Blood Alliance congratulate Your Majesty on establishing the #1 kingdom of the Cerulean Planet. Overlord Lord. All Lord members of the Overlord Association congratulations Your Majesty on establishing the #1 kingdom of the Cerulean Planet. The #1 kingdom of all races. Undead Lord. The Undead Alliance congratulates Your Majesty for establishing the #1 kingdom on the Cerulean Planet. The #1 kingdom of all races. Wow, so many big bosses appeared in the same frame together. We're really witnessing history today. You're still lamenting about witnessing history, but the smart me has already taken a screenshot. You're still taking screenshots. The smart me has already started recording. You're still recording. The far-sighted me has long joined the Star Alliance. Damn it, I'm willing to call that a killer move. Boo-hoo, I want to join the Star Alliance too, but the event is over. I can't even exchange for the Master Servant Territory contract now. In short, it's good to cozy up to Big Boss Blazing Sun. What big shot? Can't you see how those big shots address him? Call him Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Big Boss Blazing Sun has already become a king. Is it time to consider the harem? Cough cough. I have a little sister who's beautiful. Your Majesty, do you want to take a look? In this day and age, there are people fighting to be a bootlicker. It's too difficult. If you can't be a bootlicker, you can lick the hook for His Majesty. Hook? Which hook? Blazing Sun Kingdom. Lord of the Blazing Sun, strongest lord of all races. His Majesty has appeared. Capture His Majesty quickly. Hold on to the person above. Hold on tight. The main character has appeared. I hope that in the upcoming war in the territory, I will kill gods and Buddhas. Zhou turned off the World Channel speechlessly. Every time something big happened, there would always be a few people among the lords of the Cerulean Planet that made him speechless. In addition, he could tell something. Fewer lords who dared to openly mock him on the World Channel as his strength and his achievement increased. They were almost extinct. This was the benefit of strength. When there was not much difference in strength between him and the other party still dared to openly mock him and conspire against him using the World Channel. When the disparity in strength was large enough for the other party to look up to, all kinds of jealousy, resentment, and anger would disappear or be hidden in the deepest depths. Zhou did not let down his guard, even though he was very happy to see this situation. Their lords were competitors after all. In the future, when he encountered other lords of Cerulean Planet during the expansion of his territory, they would definitely fight them if they did not want to surrender. Furthermore, he would not stop himself from becoming stronger, just because the other party was a lord of the same race. Therefore, he would start a war with the other party. This was something that was bound to happen between lords of all races. They were enemies after all. However, unlike the people of foreign races, they were of the same race. I hope that all the lords of Cerulean Planet I meet in the future will surrender to me. Otherwise, I'll have to fight them. Even though Zhou was cautious, he also felt that it would be very difficult to find a lord who could fight him among the lords of Cerulean Planet. This was evident from the battlefield of the Lord of all races. Other than him, only a few lords on the Cerulean Planet had reached the epic tier. However, he was the only one who could surpass the legendary tier and mythical tier, and reach the top of the myriad races. He did not think too much about it, and looked at the rewards for the Lord of all races. First was the 10 reputation rating, and 1 mythical reputation rating. This meant that tomorrow, he would have another 10 talents attracted by his reputation rating, and 1 mythical tier talent join his territory. He then looked at the 2 treasure chests. First was the mythical tier treasure chest. Zhou opened it, and saw a piece of paper emitting a faint golden light. He picked it up and looked at it. A text notification appeared. Treasure name: Hero Slot Advancement Book, Treasure Grade, True God Tier, Treasure Effect. After using it, any hero of any race can immediately upgrade their hero slot to the True God Tier Hero Fate level. Treasure description: a precious treasure that can greatly increase the fate level of low-level heroes. The highest level can be upgraded to the True God Tier Hero's fate level. Zhou's eyes lit up. What a good treasure! But who should he give this hero slot advancement book to? Zhou now had a total of 9 heroes under his command, including Mechanical Father. Zhou. They had contributed to the territory, and there was not much of a difference between their contributions to heroes. However, there was only 1 hero slot advancement book. It was really difficult to decide if he wanted to give it to a suitable hero. He thought for a while, then suddenly smiled. With a thought Mechanical Father, Zhou was summoned. There you go. Use it well. Don't let both me and you down. Zhou directly threw the hero slot advancement book to him. Mechanical Father. Zhou nodded calmly, and left to find a room to use. Zhou watched this scene calmly. Chapter 526 Newbie Kingdom Treasure Chest. Sword of Xianyuan, Sun Moon Star Sword. There were 2 reasons why he handed this hero slot advancement book to his Machina race clone. First, enhance his own strength, so that his life preservation ability would be stronger in the battle between lords of the myriad races. No matter when or where, survival was always his top priority. Only with life would there be a future, and powerful strength was always the first way to save one's life. Second, Zhou was confident that after his strength increased exponentially, he would repay his subordinates in the future, so that his subordinates' strength and hero slots would also increase exponentially. This was his confidence in his future. That was why he had given this hero slot advancement book to his Machina race clone. While Mechanical Father, Zhou was leveling up, Zhou looked at another Novice Kingdom treasure chest. This treasure chest was black and gold in color, and looked extremely noble. After he opened it, he found a sword inside. Zhou widened his eyes, and could not help but take a deep breath. It was actually the second incomplete sword of Xianyuan. Its sword was engraved with the sun, moon, and stars. Faint starlight spread out, as if stars were circulating. It was very mysterious. Sun, moon, star sword. Zhou whispered. Information about the divine artifact appeared. Race divine artifact name. Incomplete sword of Xianyuan. Equipment grade. Unique in the race. Race divine artifact ability 1. Sun, moon, star sword. All humans on Cerulean Planet will be illuminated by the light of the sun, moon, and stars, increasing their potential by a small level. Lords with swords and their subjects will be loved by the sun, moon, and stars, and their potential will increase by a large level. Race divine artifact ability 2. Mountain, river, plants, and tree sword. Unknown. You need to collect and fuse the mountain, river, plant and tree faces of the Sword of Xianyuan to activate this Race Divine Artifact ability. Race Divine Artifact ability 4. Heaven and Earth Unification Sword. Unknown. To activate this race's Divine Artifact ability, you need to collect and fuse the hilt of the Sword of Xianyuan's Heaven and Earth Unification. Introduction to the Race Divine Artifact. Sword of Xianyuan, also known as the Xianyuan Xiaoyu Sword. One side of the sword is engraved with the sun, moon and stars, while the other side is carved with mountains, rivers, plants and trees. The hilt is filled with the art of agriculture husbandry sword, and the other side contains the strategy of unifying the world. It contains endless power. It does not only kill demons, it is also one of the important reliances of the Cerulean planet Lord in fighting for the position of Lord of all races on the High Continent. When Zhou saw the effect of the Sun-Moon-Star Sword, he immediately gasped. This Sun-Moon-Star Sword could actually increase the potential of the human race on the Cerulean planet. Furthermore, the other humans on the Cerulean planet would only advance by a small level. However, he and the subjects under him could advance by a large level. Green-Bronze tier potential directly became White-Silver tier potential. His extraordinary tier potential directly turned into epic tier potential. Zhou immediately called Bai Yun and the others over through the army panel. While they were rushing over, Zhou also opened the world channel. Then he saw countless identical comments. Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! Millions of comments appeared every second on the world channel, and these comments were all, Long live His Majesty! Without exception. Zhou laughed. It seemed that they had also seen the attributes of the Race Divine Artifact. He looked at the Kingdom channel. He realized that the situation on the Kingdom channel was similar. The only difference was that even though the subjects in the Kingdom channel were not as many as the lords in the Cerulean planet lords in the World channel, they shouted the craziest and most loyal. They were subjects under his command after all. Their potentials had increased by a large level. This was equivalent to the grace of being reborn. Who wouldn't go crazy? Originally, I was a little worried that because of the blessing of the war god, the subject's strength would increase too quickly, causing their potential to be unable to keep up. It's fine now. With the potential of this Sword of Xianyuan, Sun-Moon-Star Sword, coupled with the Dragon Slayer's talent, Song and Bloodbath, it can increase the strength of the subjects and not be limited by their potential. Next, the strength of my subjects will increase. It should welcome an explosive period. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. Even though the Dragon Slayer talent, Song and Bloodbath, was very effective, it could only be improved by killing high-level bloodline life forms and bathing in their blood. There were many restrictions. The final battlefield was gone after all. The enemies they would encounter in the future might not be high-level bloodline life forms. It was not even certain if it was a life form, or if it had blood. For example, the Machina race and the Elemental race. Killing life forms of such races would not trigger Song and Bloodbath to increase the strength of his Dragon Slayer. Therefore, in comparison, it was safer to directly increase his potential. At this moment, his friend list was filled with all kinds of messages. Zhou casually opened Linger's message. Spiritual Medicine Lord. Big Brother. I just saw the news about the race's divine artifact. Big Brother, you're amazing. You obtained another portion of the Sword of Xianyuan. Lord of the Blazing Sun. I'm keeping a low profile. By the way, how did it display on your end? Linger didn't reply but sent a screenshot instead. Zhou looked at it. Sword of Xianyuan. Sun-Moon-Star Sword. All human lords on Cerulean planet are illuminated by the light of the sun, moon, and stars. Their potential has increased by a small level. Zhou nodded slightly. The light of the sun, moon, and stars? He pondered for a while, then walked out of his room and looked up at the stars in the sky. He could vaguely feel it. The stars that filled the sky were faintly emitting starlight that shone on his body. Then, it turned into wisps of cool energy that nourished his body. I wonder how much potential I have now. Zhou muttered to himself. There was no potential in the Lord Information Interface of the Lords of all races. Only when the Lords of all races lost their status as Lords would their specific potential be revealed. Then he carefully felt his body. After a while he frowned slightly. Logically speaking, it's already a huge increase in my potential to increase by a major level. Why don't I feel any change in my own potential? Don't tell me. My potential already at the Master God tier advanced grade? Zhou frowned and muttered to himself. Master God tier advanced grade. It was the limit of the potential of all the life forms of the various races. Anything above it would already involve the domain of the Supreme God realm. That was no longer something that could be determined by one's potential. He took out another sword of Xian Yuan, the agriculture husbandry sword, as he thought about this question. At this moment, he held the sword of Xian Yuan in his left hand, the agriculture husbandry sword, and the Sun Moon Star sword in his right hand. The two broken swords seemed to have sensed each other, and their surfaces emitted a faint white fluorescent light. A text notification appeared. Do you want to fuse? Sure enough, it can be fused. Fuse, Zhou immediately said. The two swords shone brightly. Then a luxurious golden sword appeared in his hand. Its blade was divided into 4 sides. At this moment, there were already 2 sword faces carved with the contents of the sun, moon and stars, as well as farming. As for the other 2 sides of the sword, they were empty. Zhou looked at the attributes of the sword of Xian Yuan and realized that there were no changes. It was just a simple fusion of functions. He was slightly disappointed. He thought that it would produce some additional stats. Perhaps after I gather the complete sword of Xian Yuan, its species divine artifact stats will change. Zhou had some guesses. Chapter 527 Nazario. I'm also a dragon slayer. Zhou looked at the sword of Xian Yuan in his hand. Even though the fusion of the 2 swords did not produce any new divine artifact stats, Zhou was very satisfied with the effect of the Sun Moon Star sword. At this moment, Bai Yin, Wuxia, Feng Luo, Luo Sheng, and the others walked over. Nazario, Auguste, Horace, and the other dragons also flew over. Greetings, my lord. Everyone and the dragons said respectfully. Can you feel the changes in your body? Zhou nodded and smiled. I can feel it. My potential has increased by a large level, and I've directly reached the legendary tier advanced grade. Feng Luo couldn't hide the excitement in his eyes. As a hero with an epic tier hero fate level slot, his potential was only at the epic tier advanced grade. After the upgrade of the Sun Moon Star sword, he had directly jumped to the legendary tier advanced grade. This potential was already comparable to the potential of a legendary tier hero in the fate level. My potential has increased to a low-level deity advanced grade. Bai Yin smiled. During this period of time, her hero fate level had officially transformed from the legendary tier hero fate level fate to the real legendary tier hero fate level through killing enemy country heroes with her companions. At the same time, her potential also increased to legendary tier advanced grade. And now, her potential had already broken through the limitations of normal life forms and had the potential to become a god. She would also be a true god spirit, even if it was only the divine potential of a low-level deity advanced grade. It was no longer the same as life forms below the legendary tier. Zhou looked at the others. When the others saw this, they also stood up and reported the improvement of their potential. Among them, the potential of the Dragon Horse Spear General, Wuxia, had increased from an epic tier advanced grade to a legendary tier advanced grade. Soul Arrow Wu Tu's potential rose from epic tier advanced grade to legendary tier advanced grade. The advancement of the Ghost God General Luo Sheng was more terrifying. He was originally a genius with the potential of an high-level deity elementary grade. This time, after the upgrade of the Sun Moon Star sword, he had directly jumped from to true god tier elementary grade. The Night Rakshasa sword Godsu An's potential increase was the most terrifying. This was because he had the potential to become true god tier advanced grade. However, he had now directly advanced from a true god tier advanced grade to a master god tier advanced grade. His potential had shockingly reached the limit of the world. Butcher Guoqiao's potential was more ridiculous. As a dragon slayer, his potential was only at the green bronze tier intermediate grade. Now, even with the improvement of the Sun Moon Star sword, his potential was only at the white silver tier intermediate grade. Even so, Guoqiao still looked relieved. Fortunately, my potential didn't increase greatly. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a pure dragon slayer. With that, he looked at everyone except Zhou with a strange expression. Everyone was speechless. You don't have to look at people like that. We're all humans. Our bloodlines aren't noble. Zhou coughed lightly and said, "That's true." Wuxia retracted his gaze and could not help but glance at Nazario and the others. Nazario and the other dragons subconsciously trembled. Then they suddenly reacted. What was there to be afraid of? They might be dragons, but they were also dragon slayers. At the thought of this, they stared at Wuxia until he looked uncomfortable before looking away. Zhou smiled when he saw this. Instead, they stared at Wuxia until he looked uncomfortable before looking away. Zhou sighed. Back then, Nazario was the #1 combatant and the #1 potential subordinate in his territory. And now it was actually starting to lose its ranking. He smiled. This also meant that his territory was developing rapidly. However, Nazario had contributed greatly to the development of his territory. If he could find treasures to increase its potential in the future, he had to help Nazario do just that. Zhou hoped to see the final scenery of the Lord's path with his old subordinates, as long as they did not betray him. Your Majesty, this is the list of the increase in the strength of the soldiers after passing the Triumph Gate. Among these soldiers, there are also the Lords of the Star Alliance today. Let's turn around 20% of the troops. At this moment, Bai Yin walked over with a list and handed it to Zhou. Zhou took it and read it. Today, the Lords of the Star Alliance had used Insight Defection on a total of 1,035,900 monsters. The 20% of the troops that were transferred to Zhou had 207,180 fog monsters. In addition to the 158,575 Titan soldiers, he had Insight Defection on his own. After the Triumphal Arches upgrade, most of these soldiers had improved in strength. Among the soldiers under his command, there were 327,131 Black Iron Tier soldiers. There were 241,529 Green Bronze Tier soldiers. There were 719,600 White Silver Tier soldiers. There were 541,712 Yellow Gold Tier soldiers. There were 459,612 White Platinum Tier soldiers. Diamond Tier 287,152 soldiers. 15 Extraordinary Tier soldiers. Guo was promoted to Epic Tier Advanced Grade. Feng Luo had been promoted to Extraordinary Tier Advanced Grade. Bai Yin had advanced to the Extraordinary Tier Intermediate Grade. Luo Sheng had advanced to the Extraordinary Tier Intermediate Grade. Wu Tu was upgraded to Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Nazario was upgraded to Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. The original Spirit Race Ansel had broken through to White Platinum Tier Intermediate Grade. The strength of the other generals did not change for the time being. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Now his troops, together with the Star Alliance's total troops, had officially broken through 10 million, reaching more than 22 million troops. Not bad, not bad. Such a military force was already considered to be completely overwhelming in the beginner kingdoms that he knew of. If that's the case, well, attack the Titan Kingdom, or the Netherbark Kingdom tomorrow. A cold glint flashed across Zhou's eyes. Zhou did not have a good impression of these two foreign races, who dared to snatch food from his mouth. It just so happened that his kingdom was newly built. He would use these two beginner kingdoms to pave a fierce reputation for his new kingdom. This would prevent some ignorant kingdoms from thinking that his kingdom was a soft persimmon, just because it had just been established. How's your discussion going? Zhou retracted his thoughts and looked at Bai Yin and the rest. Vice City Lord Zheng and the others are still discussing. Before we left, they were discussing the founding celebration, the kingdom's laws, and the official title of the kingdom's officials. They should still be discussing it now. Bai Yin reported respectfully, "My lord, you are now the ruler of a new kingdom after all. There are some important kingdom decisions that require your personal approval. Otherwise, they might discuss it for a long time, and it won't come to a conclusion. Moreover, there are some national matters that they don't dare to discuss without you around." Wu Xian said. He had been an official in the court for many years, So he naturally knew that the upper echelons of the territory needed Zhou to be present. You guys go back and continue the discussion. I have something on now. I'll go to your place later. Zhou thought for a moment and said, Yes, my lord. No one had any objections. Chapter 528 Resurrecting Heroes. 3 Hero Corpses. A moment later, in the meeting room of the beginner grade Lord's Paradise, Zhou looked at the 3 people in front of him. They were Mugu, Zhang Fugue and Carol Momoira. Same rules. Tell me about your improvements. Zhou said. Mugu was the first to stand up out of habit. He respectfully said, Reporting to your majesty, after the territory was promoted to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade, my strength also increased to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. My various skills also increased to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Moreover, the number of monster ranches that I can manage had already reached 36. The maximum capacity of each monster ranch has also increased from 15,000 to 20,000. The upper limit of the monsters that can be nurtured has also increased to the level of White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Zhou nodded. The 2 new monster ranches will be used to nurture the Violent Storm Demon Spirit. Zhou said, Yes, your majesty. Mugu said respectfully. Zhou nodded and looked at Zhang Fugue. Zhang Fugue stood up with a chuckle. Your majesty, the number of mysterious vendors in the mysterious caravan has increased from 1,000 to 1,500. All the mysterious merchants' abilities have been upgraded to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Our number of carriages has also increased to 1,500. In addition, the mysterious business ring that each of us was given by the Supreme has also increased from 30,000 cubic meters to 80,000 cubic meters. We can transport more goods now. This is the improvement of our mysterious caravan. This is for you. See if we can sell it for a good price. It's best if we can exchange it for some treasures. After some thought, Zhou took out the 3 Emperor's gems and threw them to Zhang Fugue. Zhang Fugue took it subconsciously. When he saw the 3 Emperor's gems in his hands, his eyes lit up, and he kept them solemnly. I will definitely bring back satisfactory goods for your majesty. Zhang Fugue said respectfully. Zhou nodded. Actually, he did not have much hope. How much could it be worth no matter how high the grade of a gem without any attributes was? How expensive was the gift? When Zhang Fugue saw this, he did not say much and sat back down. Carol Moeli stood up calmly. Your majesty, after our territory was upgraded to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade, the shelter of the Goddess of Life was also upgraded to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. We have 3,000 clergymen, 3,000 priests, 3,000 nuns, and 10,000 paladins of life in our shelter now. In addition, the strength of all the clergymen has also increased to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. And my strength has also increased from Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade to Extraordinary Tier Advanced Grade. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Now that he had many soldiers, the casualties in the battle also increased greatly. The shelter of the Goddess of Life was the foundation for his soldiers to maintain a 0 casualty rate. And now, its strengthening could be said to be the most useful strengthening for Zhou at the moment. You guys can go back. Carol Moeli, get ready. I might let you resurrect 2 heroes later. Zhou said. Yes, your majesty. The 3 of them said respectfully. Then he left. Seeing this, Zhou also left and walked towards the Night Temple. Night Temple. When Zhou arrived, he happened to see Bai He and Rob Allen chatting at the door. Greetings, Temple Lord. Greetings, Lord Silver Fallen Star. Zhou was stunned for a moment before saying respectfully, You're incredible. How many days has it been since he came to the High Continent? He's already established a kingdom. Bai He didn't say anything. Rob Allen could not help but sigh. Luck. Zhou said humbly. Building the first kingdom among the Lord of all races is not something that can be done by luck alone. You're good. Bai He looked at Zhou with admiration. Do you know? You are the fastest human to establish a kingdom without the help of external forces. He said seriously. Zhou was stunned. He did not expect to break a record. However, his heart was as calm as water. He did not feel much emotions because of this matter. Bai He sighed with emotion upon seeing this. It seemed that after this kid appeared on the entire channel of the Lord of all races twice, the situation had completely changed. He would not become unstable just because of a little achievement. Rob Allen, who was beside him, did not even manage to do that. If this had happened to Rob Allen, he would probably be overjoyed. You didn't come here just to report good news, did you? But he came back to his senses and asked. Yes. Jojo nodded. I've gathered the resources to resurrect 2 more heroes. Come, follow me to the heroic spirit hall. Baihe's eyes lit up upon hearing this. Then, he pulled Jojo and walked quickly in the direction of the Hall of Heroes. A moment later, Jojo came to the shelter of the Goddess of Life with the relics of the Soul Mage, Izzy and the Flaming Saber King, to revive them. After resurrecting the 2 heroes, Jojo chatted with them briefly before bringing them to the Night Temple and handing them over to Baihe. At this point, Jojo's debt was completely paid off. He walked towards the administrative hall, debt-free in the administrative hall. When Jojo and the others approached, they heard intense discussions coming from inside. As a newly established kingdom, I don't think it's a good idea for our Blazing Sun Kingdom to follow the laws of the Aurora Kingdom. I was the former Prime Minister of the Aurora Kingdom and personally presided over the repair of the laws of the Aurora Kingdom. I'm very confident in establishing the laws of the kingdom. Furthermore, I won't completely copy them. I'll make specific changes according to the situation of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. How about the flag of the Blazing Sun Kingdom with the sun as the main body? There's no problem with using the sun as the main body of the flag, but I personally feel that it can't be just the sun. It's too monotonous. Fair enough. The founding ceremony should be held in a grand manner. Of course. That's right. Our king is the founding king, not the successor. If we don't make a big fuss, wouldn't it seem too low-key? When Jojo heard these discussions, he could not help but smile. He walked in. When everyone saw him, they immediately stood up and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Your Majesty. Everyone shouted. Continue chatting. I'll listen from the side. If I have anything to say, I'll say it directly. If you have anything to ask me, just tell me directly. Jojo nodded and naturally sat on the main seat. Then he said with a faint smile. Everyone looked at each other and respectfully replied, yes. Then, everyone started discussing again like before. In the beginning, everyone was still a little careful. However, when they saw that their emperor didn't do anything, they became bold and started discussing intensely like before. During this period, Jojo also discussed his thoughts with everyone. When it was difficult for everyone to make a decision, they would take the initiative to discuss with Jojo. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 hours passed. It was already late at night. Seeing this, Jojo asked everyone to go back and rest. The matters of the kingdom could be slowly discussed in the future. Everyone nodded and went back. When Jojo saw this, he returned to his beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. Beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. Martial arts practice field. Jojo looked at the 3 corpses in front of him. It was the corpses of the 4-armed Mara King, the Iron Fang King, and the Death Spirit servant Sakomo that they had killed on the battlefield today. Chapter 529 The Loot of the Hero of the People of Foreign Races. Death Invitation Letter. The corpses of 3 people of foreign races. These are 3 hero inheritance secret manuals. Jojo looked excited, even though he already had 9 heroes under his command. As far as he knew, there were more than 100 elven heroes in some veteran empire-level factions, such as the Elven Empire. This was not including the heroes of the people of foreign races who had submitted to the Elven Empire. Therefore, the more heroes he needed, the better. Only then would he be able to catch up to those veteran lords. He stopped thinking about it. Jojo placed his hand on the 4-armed Mara King. A text notification appeared. Lord Talent Notification. Your loots have been enhanced by the King of Loots, Perfect Loots. Grade +1. Title hint. Your loots have been affected by the title of the strongest lord. The number of loots has increased by 150%. Lord Talent Notification. You have obtained Perfect Loots, 100 Mist Cores, Epic Tier, 800 Origin Crystals, 1 Epic Tier Intermediate Heroic Skill, 4 Faced 8 Arms, 1 Epic Tier Intermediate Heroic Skill. Moro Formless Combat Technique. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Broken Moon Meteor Halberd. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Mountain Crushing Axe. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Sunset Saber. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Soul Refining Cauldron. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Intermediate Grade Skill Book. Moro Halberd. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Moro Dynasty. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Moro Blade. 3 Epic Tier Equipment. Moro Axe. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Equipment. Moro Cauldron. 1 Pious Tier Scarlet Crystals. 1 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. 9 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Whoosh. The four-armed Mara King's corpse instantly turned into a ray of light and flew into the king's treasure box in his glabella space. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. 150% additional loots, coupled with the 100% loots that he already had. Normally speaking, 1 loot would become 5 loots. However, he had taken a rounding method here, so there were 3. In addition, this four-armed Mara King was born with 4 arms. When it was alive, it could control 4 different weapons to fight at the same time, and could use each weapon in an orderly manner. Now, 12 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade weapons and 12 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade skill books have dropped. Awesome. In addition, it was indeed much more convenient to retrieve the loots with this king's treasure box. In the future, he would not have to worry about the phenomenon of him extracting loots being discovered by outsiders. Lord Talent Notification. You have obtained perfect loots, 80 Mist Cores, Epic Tier, 650 Origin Crystals, 1 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Hero Skill. Steel Teeth Bite. 1 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Hero Skill. Thousand Fist Destruction. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Equipment. Mountain Fist Weapons. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Equipment. Rock Armor. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Skill Book. Broken You Barbarian Fist. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Skill Book. Long Ranged Raid. 3 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Skill Book. Shake the Ground. 3 Racial Talent Spheres. Epic Tier Intermediate Grade. 1 Pious Tier Scarlet Crystals. 1 Epic Tier Intermediate Grade Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. 20 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. There's even racial talent. That's right. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. This Titan race was not a scarlet monster, but a life form of the people of foreign races. The fact that it could drop a racial talent sphere meant that this race's talent was indeed not bad. No wonder it could protect the high-level gem resources in the country in front of the other 3 countries alone. Zhou solemnly put away the other loots and took out the Epic Tier Elementary Grade Race Talent Spheres. He looked over. Treasure Name, Roar Spirit Devour. Treasure Grade, Epic Tier Intermediate Grade, Treasure Effect. After using it, the user will automatically possess the innate ability of the Titan race, Roar Spirit Devour. With the Titan Roar, living beings far weaker than the user can be sucked into the user's stomach, turning into life force and a portion of promotion energy to strengthen themselves and increase their realm. Treasure Description. The racial talent of the Titan race. After using it, you will possess the racial talent of this race. Zhou looked at this innate ability, and his expression turned serious. The Titan race should have relied on this innate ability to invade the Aurora Kingdom countless times and devour the subjects of the Aurora Kingdom in the past. However, even though this method was a little bloody, it was undeniable that its innate ability was indeed very strong. Especially in terms of clearing miscellaneous soldiers, it could be said to be a divine skill. Zhou chose to learn without hesitation. The law did not differentiate between good and evil, and between the people who used it. Zhou naturally would not use this innate ability to kill the innocent. Then he looked at the corpse of the last death spirit servant Sakomo. He naturally would not forget that this guy still had a Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal on him. Zhou extracted the other party's loots without hesitation. At the same time, with a thought, he chose to trigger the special loots that the Lucky Star gave him once a day. Lord Talent Notification. You've obtained perfect loots, 50 Mist Cores Legendary Tier, 2,500 Origin Crystals, 1 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Enhanceable Hero Skill God of Death Descends. 1 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Enhanceable Hero Skill Ultimate Slash of Death. 3 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Equipment Black Absolute Ghost Blade. 3 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Equipment Black Absolute Ghost Armor. 3 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Skill Book Angel of Death. Combat Notes: 3 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Skill Book Angel of Death's Refuge. 1 Holy Spirit Tier Scarlet Crystals. 1 Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. 13 Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Lucky Star Hint: you have obtained a special loot's Death Invitation Letter. Jojo nodded in satisfaction. He had obtained the Holy Spirit Tier Scarlet Crystals. After being purified by the shelter of the Goddess of Life, it would be another Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal. This time, he really had 3 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals. We have to keep them. I already have 9 heroes under my command. Now there are 3 more Hero Inheritance Secret Manuals. The number of heroes under me will be 12 after using it. There are only 3 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals. It feels like there's never enough. Jojo sighed. Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals were indeed good things. However, there were too few of them. He could only obtain this much, even though he was the king of loots. He shook her head. He did not think too much about it, and looked at the special loots dropped by Lucky Star. It was a black invitation letter the size of 2 palms. The edges of the invitation letter were white, and when one looked at it, there was a faint aura of death. Jojo looked at it. A text notification appeared. Treasure name: Death Invitation Letter. Treasure grade: Treasure effect: an invitation letter casually written by the god of death, Thanatos. It said that the living being who obtains the invitation letter can request the god of death to take action and bring death to the enemy who has recently attacked the owner of the invitation letter. Treasure introduction: don't hold too much hope. Look carefully. It's just a request. It depends on the god of death's mood to make a move or not. Jojo. This treasure was indeed very good. However, what did the final introduction of the treasure mean? It depended on the god of death's mood? So whether this treasure could be used depended entirely on the god of death's good mood. That's not exactly good. No one said that god of death would definitely make a move if he was in a good mood after all. Jojo cursed in his heart. He had already offered the Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal to the god of death twice. If the god of death really did not respond to his request, he would never go to the god of death temple again. From now on, he will visit the shelter of the Goddess of Life every day. The Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal was only reserved for the Goddess of Life. From the god of death's attitude in the past, he probably valued the Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal very much. When the time came, he would not offer the god of death the Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal. Let's see what he will do. Jojo thought for a moment and put away the death invitation letter. Let's save it for later. What if it is useful in the future? Then, he took out the 3 Hero Inheritance Secret Manuals from the box and looked at them. Chapter 533 Hero Inheritance Secret Manuals. Epic Tier Blessing of the War God. Treasure name: Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. Grade: Epic Tier Intermediate Grade. Treasure ability: you can obtain the Hero Inheritance of the 6-armed Serpent Dragon Emperor, Jik, after using it. Introduction: I am the king with 6 weapons, the 6-armed Serpent Dragon Emperor, Jik. Treasure name: Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. Grade: Epic Tier Intermediate Grade. Treasure ability: after using it, you can obtain the Bloody King of Fighters, Zero. Introduction: enjoy the cries from the arena and the audience. Bloody King of Fighters, Zero. Treasure name: Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. Grade: Epic Tier Intermediate Grade. Treasure ability: after using it, you can obtain the Elven of Death, Charlot. Introduction: death is the home of all living beings. Elven of Death, Charlot. Jojo nodded slightly. The 3 upgraded versions of the Hero Inheritance Secret Manual looked good. How should he use it? Jojo touched his chin and thought of something. He opened the Military Merit panel and set up a Military Merit Quests. Military Merit Quests. War Hero. Quest content. In the upcoming war, the first 3 soldiers who perform outstandingly and are loyal to the territory will have the chance to become heroes. Mission duration: 5 days. Note 1. This quest will be decided by the joint evaluation and discussion of all the heroes in the territory. All heroes must abide by the principle of fair, open and fair evaluation. They are not allowed to bend the law for personal gain, and are not allowed to evaluate randomly, otherwise they will be severely punished. Confirmed. Published. These military merit quests appeared in the military merit system of the various armies. Zhou looked at the military quests and nodded in satisfaction. This way, he wouldn't have to choose. He would just let the soldiers compete. Among the 3 slots for the hero inheritance, the one with the most ability would be the one. At the same time, all the soldiers instantly went crazy when they saw this military merit quest. A hero! What a revered title! Every life form had the ambition to become heroes. Originally, they thought that becoming a hero was a distant goal for them. They might not even have the chance to become heroes in their lives. But now, His Lordship actually placed this opportunity in front of them openly and let them compete fairly. Who wouldn't be excited? Even the soldiers who knew that they could not compete for the hero slot felt honored. They felt that their Lord really treated them as his own people and valued them. He was willing to reward them with any treasure. As for the military merit quests being fake, how was that possible? There was the example of the ghost god general Luosheng. No one would doubt the authenticity of this military merit quest. I lost to Luosheng last time. This time, I must get this opportunity to become a hero. I must become a hero so that I can directly realize my dream of bringing honor to my ancestors. His Majesty is indeed His Majesty. He gave us 3 spots for the hero inheritance right from the start. In other words, it won't be long before our Blazing Sun Kingdom will have 3 more heroes. This is already stronger than many veteran beginner kingdoms, right? It's hard to imagine that we've only been established for less than a day. I'm proud that I'm a subject of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The soldiers and the subjects who received the news discussed excitedly. On the other side, in the beginner grade Lord's Paradise, Zhou looked at the mountain of Lord Talent crystal fragments in front of him, and could not help but take a deep breath. It's time to advance to the blessing of the war god. Zhou was filled with anticipation. He had finally gathered enough Lord Talent crystal fragments needed to upgrade the blessing of the war god. He waved his right hand. A mountain-like Lord Talent crystal fragment appeared in front of him. Among them were 60,000 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments and 4 diamond tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. Zhou began to fuse. He first fused 60,000 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments into 6 white platinum tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals. Then, he placed them together with the 4 diamond tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. A text notification appeared. Do you want to fuse it into a diamond tier Lord Talent origin divine crystal? Yes, Zhou said without hesitation. These Lord Talent crystals emitted a dazzling white platinum tier light and diamond light. After the light dissipated, a transparent diamond crystal emitting a diamond glow appeared in front of him. It was a diamond tier Lord Talent origin divine crystal. When Zhou saw this, he immediately opened his Lord Talent interface and muttered to himself to level up. As the diamond tier Lord Talent origin divine crystal in his hand emitted an even brighter diamond light, a text notification appeared. As you have 3 white platinum Lord Talents at the same time, blessing of the 10 gods, blessing of the war god, the shelter of the goddess of life, and dragon slaying hometown, please choose one to advance to. I choose the blessing of the 10 gods, blessing of the war god to advance. Zhou said without hesitation. Lord Talent has been chosen. Upgrading in progress. He felt a familiar warm feeling between his eyebrows. Zhou's expression was calm, and there was nothing unusual about it. A moment later, the warmth on his forehead gradually disappeared. A new text notification appeared. Lord Talent upgrade successful. Congratulations, your white platinum tier Lord Talent blessing of the 10 gods. Blessing of the war god has been upgraded to diamond tier Lord Talent, blessing of the 10 gods. Blessing of the war god. You have leveled up to Diamond Tier Lord Talent Effect Lord Talent. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Blessing of the War God Diamond Tier. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Blessing of the War God. One of the 10 main gods under the Supreme Will has blessed you and your combat type professionals. You and your combat type professionals will receive an additional 1000% promotion energy after killing the enemy. A smile appeared on his face. It actually doubled. Still, this wasn't over yet. This was because he still had 28 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments and 19 Epic Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. He had been useless all this time. He had been waiting for today. Without hesitation, Zhou took out 10 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments and 10 Epic Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. He fused them into one Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystal and one Epic Tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystal before choosing to level up again. This Lord Talent was upgraded twice. Zhou looked at it. Lord Talent. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Blessing of the War God, Epic Tier. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Blessing of the War God. One of the 10 Master God tiers under the Supreme Will has blessed you and your combat type professionals. You and your combat type professionals will receive an additional 8000% promotion energy after killing the enemy. Zhou looked at this Lord Talent and suddenly laughed. 80 times. This was an additional 80 times promotion energy bonus, which meant the soldiers under other lords would only obtain the promotion energy of a life form if they killed a fog monster. As for the soldiers under his command, killing a fog monster would give them promotion energy from 81 life forms. This bonus was extremely terrifying. Zhou understood that his soldiers were about to undergo a huge improvement again today. Chapter 531 Conditions for Advancing to Intermediate Kingdom. After the excitement, Zhou looked at his remaining Lord Talent Crystal Fragment. After the consumption just now, there were 752 Black Iron Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 769 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 133 White Silver Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 11 Yellow Gold Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 9 White Platinum Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 18 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 9 Epic Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 2 Legendary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, and 6 Mythical Tier, Unique Lord Talent Crystal Fragments left in his possession. Zhou looked at these Lord Talent Crystal Fragments and nodded slightly. Actually, from the looks of the Lord Talent Crystal Fragments in his hands, he had the conditions to upgrade some other Lord Talents. However, he felt that he was not in a hurry to upgrade the other Lord Talents. Therefore, he did not use these Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. In that case, there was a huge benefit when he encountered some top-grade Lord Talents in the future, such as Lord Talents that were comparable to the Blessing of the 10 Gods, the Blessing of the War God. He could directly upgrade it through the Lord Talent Crystal Fragments he had accumulated. He did not need to wait for the accumulated time to upgrade it. In addition, he already had more than 20 Lord Talents. It would not increase their levels, even if he had a lot of Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, and distributed them equally to each Lord Talent. As for the Lord Talents of lower level, the effects were actually not very obvious to him. For example, the Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent, Gnome Alchemy Workshop, that played a very helpful role when he first descended to the High Continent. With the increase in the number of doctors and Goddess of Life professionals in his territory, this Lord Talent had gradually decreased to the point where it could only provide potions. Their effects did not seem obvious, and that was indeed the case. Therefore, he did not need the low-level Lord Talent to increase by 1 or 2 levels. What he needed was Extraordinary Tier, Epic Tier, and even Legendary Tier and Mythical Tier Lord Talents. These advanced Lord Talents were either obtained from the enemy by luck, or required him to accumulate a large number of Lord Talent Crystal Fragments to increase his top-grade Lord Talent to the advanced stage. He would therefore not use these Lord Talent Crystal Fragments easily. After that, he opened his Kingdom UI. Kingdom name, Blazing Sun Kingdom. Kingdom level, Beginner Kingdom. Flag of the Kingdom, undecided. Royal Army, Blazing Sun Army, Yellow Gold Tier. Monster Army, White Silver Tier. Dragon God Army White Silver Tier. Requirements for advancement to Intermediate Kingdom. Territory level advancement to Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade. 10,000 Extraordinary Tier Miss Cores. Conquer 3 Elementary Crimson Kingdoms, under the Crimson Overlord. 1/3. Conquer 2 Beginner Kingdoms that are not under the Crimson Overlord. 0/2. 500 Independent Regional Territories. 10 Race Heroes. 1 Epic Tier Elementary Grade Kingdom Token. Zhou Zhou's gaze landed on the conditions to advance to the Intermediate Kingdom, and he could not help but frown. He was far from reaching the first step of upgrading his territory to the Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade. After all, his current territory level was only White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. He still needed to advance 4 more times to reach the Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade. It seems, normally speaking, a beginner kingdom can only be established by an Extraordinary Tier Lord faction. I'm just a White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade territorial faction, and I've already established a beginner kingdom. In terms of game terminology, it can be considered an action that exceeds the version. Zhou Zhou muttered. Then, he shook his head with a bitter smile. This condition alone extended the date for him to upgrade the Blazing Sun Kingdom to an intermediate kingdom indefinitely, not to mention the subsequent conditions. 1. Conquer the 3 beginner Crimson Kingdoms under the command of the Crimson Overlord. 2. Conquer 2 beginner kingdoms that were not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. Currently, the only Crimson Kingdom that Zhou Zhou knew of was the captured Taiyan Kingdom. Whether it was the Aurora Kingdom, the Nether Bark Kingdom, the Titan Kingdom, or the Flame Spirit Kingdom that had just been found out, they were all veteran kingdom-level lord factions that belonged to the native life forms, not the Crimson Kingdom. He had heard of it. The territory of some lords in the Star Alliance was adjacent to the territory of some lords of the Crimson Kingdom. However, Zhou Zhou did not intend to cross such a long distance to conquer the Crimson Kingdom that was not close to his territory. Firstly, it was strenuous. Secondly, the distance was too far. Even with the spatial teleportation array, it would be difficult to manage it after conquest. If he had the energy and time, he would rather expand outwards to find the other beginner Crimson Kingdoms around his territory. Thinking of this, Zhou Zhou sent someone to call Wu Tu over. Then, he told him to continue exploring the unknown territories around the kingdom in the coming days. From tomorrow onwards, you will transfer soldiers from other armies to expand your heavenly army to 100,000 soldiers. In addition, you will take 3 Black Ghosts, 2 Star Knights, and 50,000 Mechanostriders as military aircraft for your heavenly army. I want to greatly increase the strength of the heavenly army and strengthen your ability to explore the surrounding unknown territories. Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. As Blazing Sun territory was promoted to a beginner kingdom lord faction, the strength of the heavenly map army, the vanguard of the former king, had to increase along with it. Otherwise, it would seriously slow down his growth speed. Yes, Your Majesty, Wu Tu said excitedly. He felt that His Majesty valued him and the Heavenly Two army more and more. I'm not done yet. Zhou Zhou smiled and took out a copy of the Proof of Legion, choosing to use it. Please confirm the name of your kingdom-level army, Heavenly Map Army. Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. The army's name, Heavenly Map Army, has been confirmed. Please confirm the Legion Commander, Deputy Commander, Logistics Chief, Machinery Chief. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he only filled Wu Tu's name in the position of Legion Commander. He would leave the rest to Wu Tuesday. The dead loyal Wu Tu would give him a good answer. He saw Wu Tu's body tremble before he raised his head and looked at him in shock. Your Majesty. He was at a loss. You don't have to ask why. It's normal for you to get an army with your and the Heavenly Map Army's contributions. However, the position of Legion Commander is both a power and a responsibility. Don't let me down, Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. Yes, Your Majesty. I will not let you down, Your Majesty. The excitement on Wu Tu's face gradually faded, and his expression gradually became serious. He said solemnly. Zhou Zhou nodded and waved his hand for him to leave. Seeing this, Wu Tu left respectfully. After he left, Zhou Zhou, who had nothing else to do, returned to his room to rest. Just as he entered his room, a beautiful figure pounced into his arms. It was Leah. They held each other for a while. Let's take a break. Jojo suddenly smiled evilly. Leah did not say anything. She just buried her head in Jojo's arms in embarrassment. Jojo smiled when he saw this. He then suddenly carried Leah in his arms and walked into the room. At this moment, the stars in the starry skies above also put on their scarlet veils in embarrassment. Chapter 532 Assassination of a God Spirit. In the Pope's Hall in Netherbark Kingdom, the new Pope Floyd looked at the kobold before him. It was a kobold in a black cloak and shrouded in shadows. The god of shadow rays and hidden murder, Algernon. How long has it been since I last saw you? Floyd looked at the kobold inside. More than 50 years. Algernon said calmly. Floyd nodded. I have a quest for you. It said. Quest? Is it the moment of life and death for your Netherbark Kingdom? Floyd, don't forget. The God Lord sent me here, because a holy son was born here 100 years ago. The God Lord sent me here to help you when you encounter a life and death crisis. This is a reward from the God Lord. It shouldn't be reduced to a tool for your political struggle. Algernon said calmly, having long heard about the battle between the new and old pope. He, who had firm and pure faith, disdained to be associated with them, let alone join them and be used by them. No. Algernon, you've misunderstood me. Why would I use a god spirit like you for such a boring matter? Do you know the Blazing Sun Kingdom that was just established today? He asked. Algernon shook his head. It had been praying piously recently, and did not understand what was happening in the outside world. Let me tell you about it first. Floyd said with a smile. Then, it told Algernon about what had happened in the Blazing Sun Kingdom recently, and the divine artifact of the race. According to that king of the Blazing Sun's strength and habits, the Aurora Kingdom, the Titan Kingdom, and even our Netherbark Kingdom will probably be within his expanded territory. The King of Titans, who also guessed this, even came to me personally today to seek cooperation with me. Don't you think I should nip this matter in the bud before it happens? He stared at Algernon and asked. Algernon did not say anything. If what Floyd said was true, there was probably a 90% chance that the King of the Blazing Sun would attack the Netherbark Kingdom next. It is indeed a huge threat. It thought to itself. On the Pope's seat, Floyd immediately became even more excited when it saw the slight change in Algernon's expression. Its expression became even more pious as it said, not to mention, that King of the Blazing Sun even has a supreme treasure like a divine artifact of the race. That's a racial divine artifact that can be used by all races. It's a true treasure. If you can bring that race divine artifact over, and offer it to His Excellency with me, His Excellency will definitely be very happy. He might even give you a reward. Algernon was even more tempted. As a true God spirit, he understood the value of this universal divine artifact of the race better than Floyd. That was a super treasure that even true God tier and master God tier existences would be tempted by. Even though he did not know what its value was to be wanted by both true God tier and master God tier existences. But it didn't matter. He only needed to know that it was very precious. After offering it to the God level would be very happy. Floyd said his third reason when he saw the even more tempted expression on Algernon's face. Algernon, you've been with me for almost 100 years. Don't you want to get rid of your mission as soon as possible, and make a huge contribution, to go back and continue serving His Excellency? It tempted. Algernon fell silent. It was indeed tempting. He'll make a trip and take that human lord's life. Algernon said calmly after a long silence. Floyd was delighted. But at this moment, a bloodstain suddenly appeared on the right side of its face. Blood dripped from the bloodstain, and quickly dyed half of its face with blood. At first, Floyd only felt that its face was a little cold. It realized that it was injured when it touched its face. It was about to flare up at Algernon when it saw it looking at it coldly. Even though you're the Pope of the God of Death Church of the Netherbark Kingdom, your status is equal to mine. But you're just an extraordinary tier advanced grade dog after all, while I am a god spirit that's worlds apart from you. I don't want to hear that kind of bait again. Otherwise, It won't just be your beautiful face that splits open. Then, he snorted and walked away. Floyd watched it leave angrily. After the other party walked away for a long time, the anger on its face gradually disappeared. It even smiled. With Algernon gone, not only can I resolve the greatest threat of the Netherbark Kingdom, I can also use this opportunity to completely suppress the old Pope's side in the church. I can also obtain the admiration of His Excellency. Killing two birds with one stone, ha 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 ha. Floyd could not help but laugh as it imagined a beautiful future. Beginner-grade Lord's paradise in the blazing Sun City. In the bedroom, Jojo and Leah were sleeping soundly. At this moment, a warning sound that sounded like a huge bell suddenly sounded in Jojo's mind. An incomparable sense of danger suddenly descended in his consciousness. Whoosh! Jojo sat up on the bed. His face was pale as he stared ahead with wide eyes. Why? Leah was also woken up. She sat beside Jojo and looked at the man in front of her worriedly. Jojo said nothing. He only frowned. He knew this alarm was because his talent, danger prediction, had been triggered. It must be a life and death crisis. Otherwise, the sense of danger that danger prediction gives me would definitely not be so strong. Jojo's alarm went off. On the surface he did not reveal anything, and even had a faint smile on his face. Leah, I'm sorry. I'm afraid you have to go back first. I have something to deal with. Jojo apologized. It was indeed not good to chase a girl who had just fallen asleep out in the middle of the night. However, he had no choice. In the face of such an invisible, terrifying threat, he probably wouldn't be able to protect others while protecting himself. He had to let the person closest to him leave his side first. This way he could also let go of his methods to resolve this crisis. Leah was stunned. However, even though she was puzzled, she believed that Jojo was not a rude person. He must have a reason for saying that. Hence she nodded, put on her clothes and left. Seeing her leave, Jojo summoned all his heroes through the army interface. However, he did not let them approach him. He only asked them to hide outside the house and be ready to attack at any time. And then, Jojo waited quietly on the bed. A moment later, Jojo suddenly trembled, and the sense of danger in his heart reached its peak. He immediately looked around without leaving a trace. However, what made his heart sink was that at this moment, he did not see any enemies or sense any enemy's aura in his vision. At the same time, less than 2 meters in front of Jojo, the god of shadow rays and hidden murder, Algernon, was floating in front of him openly, looking at him calmly. It was as if it was looking at a dead person. Chapter 533 God Slaying 1. The god of shadow rays and hidden murder. Algernon looked at the human lord in front of it. It could not help but think of the other party's information. King of the blazing sun. What an unbelievable human lord. He can actually reach this stage with just his human bloodline, and even become the current strongest lord of all races. If he continues to grow, he might really become an overlord-level lord in the future. Algernon sighed. As a true god spirit, he had seen many unbelievable lords rise in his long life as a god spirit. However, this was the first time he had seen someone like Jojo, who had reached this stage with the bloodline of a low-level human. It was a pity that such an elite was about to die under his dagger. At the thought of this, Algernon's eyes became calmer. He raised his right hand, and a black dagger that looked like a curved claw appeared out of thin air in his palm. The surface of this dagger emitted an inconspicuous black light that was actually shockingly energetic. If a life form looked over, they would immediately feel a chill run down their spine. Algernon reached out and placed the dagger on Jojo's neck, about to cut off his head. At this moment, the warning from his talent danger prediction instantly reached its peak in Jojo's mind. The alarm rang wildly. Jojo's hair stood on end. He disappeared from the spot without thinking. Algernon couldn't help but exclaim in surprise when its attack missed. Then it calmed down. There's no point in escaping, he said calmly. Then, his body dissipated into the darkness. Outside the beginner-grade lord's paradise, Jojo's figure appeared out of thin air. He panted slightly and frowned as he looked at the beginner-grade lord's paradise. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. In his powerful perception as a chaos human, He seemed to vaguely sense that an enemy was going to use some sharp weapon to cut his head off. That enemy should have grasped a relatively high-level meld skill, or even a law skill. Zhou felt that the possibility of the latter was extremely high. If that was the case, the other party was either a high-level bloodline race that could master law skills in advance. For example, the Shepherd's God race, the Chaos God's race, the Original Spirit race, or a God Spirit. It was very difficult for normal life forms to master law skills. However, it was normal for God Spirits. This was because the most obvious and basic characteristic of God Spirits was mastering law skills. Zhou's heart was pounding at the thought of this. A God Spirit actually wants to kill me? Moreover, in the form of assassination? Doesn't this God Spirit have any self-awareness about being a God Spirit? Do you have to assassinate to kill me? Zhou complained in his heart. Then he suddenly thought of something. That's not right. Why would a God Spirit attack me? Isn't he afraid of the Supreme Agreement? Wait. Zhou suddenly reacted. He was already a lord of a beginner kingdom. The Empire or Divine Kingdom Lord factions might not be able to attack me because of the Supreme Agreement. However, other kingdom-level lord factions that are no longer restricted by the Supreme Agreement and could attack me, the king of the kingdom. If it is an old kingdom, it might really be able to invite a small number of low-level God Spirits to attack me. The familiar bone-chilling sense of danger came again, just as his thoughts were flying. Zhou teleported away again, and appeared in an empty space hundreds of meters away without thinking. He looked at the place before he teleported. Nothing happened at that place. However, not only did Zhou not feel at ease, he even felt his blood run cold. What a terrifying meld ability. It was definitely a law skill level meld ability. You can actually dodge 2 of my attacks? This human lord only has the strength of a diamond tier advanced grade, but he can do this. He's indeed extraordinary. Algernon floated where Zhou had been before he teleported, and looked at him hundreds of meters away in surprise. Then, his body disappeared again. Zhou looked at the empty surroundings and felt anxious. He knew at this moment he had to find the assassin's location. Otherwise, even though he could dodge it once or twice, it was impossible for him to use danger prediction to dodge it every time. He would definitely lose if he defended for too long. This was a principle that all living beings who read a little military books would know. He carefully sensed the location before he teleported in the distance. Suddenly, there seems to be the aura of shadow rays in that place. Zhou finally sensed the faint aura of the shadow rays with the light sacred dragon bloodline in his body. Without hesitation, he immediately stood up and raised his hands into fists. Law skill, absolute light. The might of the holy dragon. An indescribably resplendent light suddenly erupted from Zhou's body. Under the illumination of this resplendent light, it was as if a small sun had slowly risen in the blazing sun territory, illuminating all the darkness and shadow. At the same time, a terrifying bloodline pressure suddenly erupted from Zhou's body, preventing all the shadow rays' evils from escaping. A scream sounded. Zhou suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a kobold in a black cloak holding a black scimitar-shaped dagger. It was shrouded in shadows, and was more than 10 meters away from him. It was the god of shadow rays and hidden murder, Algernon. A text message appeared. God's true name, Algernon. God title, the god of shadow rays and hidden murder. God tier, low tier deity elementary grade. Territory, Netherbark Kingdom. Ability overview. Originally a lowly god spirit in the god of death Thanatos pantheon. It is good at hiding in the shadows and assassinating. Later, it was sent by the god of death Thanatos to protect the Netherbark Kingdom, because a holy son was born in the Netherbark Kingdom. Bloodline, son of Shadowray's bloodline, mid-level god tier elementary grade. Skills, law skill, incarnation of Shadowray's law skill, death shadow dagger. Loyalty, none. The other party is not a territory subject. Potential, mid-level god tier elementary grade. Hero biography. Zhou felt that it was a pity. The difference in strength was too great. He could not see all the other party's stats information. Nonetheless, he got to know the other party's background from the only information he had. Netherbark Kingdom. They did not expect them to actually make the first move. Very well. My Blazing Sun Kingdom will have been established for nothing if I don't settle scores with your Netherbark Kingdom tomorrow. Zhou eyes were cold. However, he had to resolve the current crisis right at that moment. Just as Algernon revealed his figure, countless figures shot out from all directions and launched all kinds of attacks at Algernon. Hero skill, Greedy Wolf Devouring Arrow. Bai Yun, hero skill, Seven Swords Killing Move. Suan hero skill, Heaven and Earth Heart Arrow. Wu Tu hero skill, Dragon Slaying Axe Technique. Guoqiao, Law skill, One Blade Ultimate. Feng Luo, Law skill, Absolute Light. Ingersoll. A large number of attacks of different forms attacked Algernon. Chapter 534 God Slaying 2. Algernon was indeed an old low-tier god spirit, who had become a god for many years. His state had decreased greatly, and it was even difficult for him to sense his surroundings because of the attack of absolute light. At this moment, he still used his precise dagger technique to block most of the attacks. Only a small number of attacks landed on him, but they did not cause much damage. Algernon was extremely furious. At the same time, it was very shocked. It never expected that the process of such a simple assassination operation with the target being only a diamond-tier advanced grade lord actually put it in such a sorry state. Moreover, the other party was only a diamond-tier advanced grade, but he had actually mastered such a law skill that countered him so much. At this moment, it actually realized that there was no longer any chaotic elemental around him, such as death, shadow rays, and corrosion. He was vigilant. This law skill was definitely not simple. It could not delay any longer. If this dragged on, who knew if this king of the blazing sun would come up with new methods? He put away his relaxed thoughts. It decisively released its strongest law skill, the Death Shadow Dagger. At this moment, the world seemed to have darkened. Other than Ingersoll and Guoqiao, who could barely tell that something was happening, the others fell into a dark environment. Zhou's perspective was even more shocking. This was because other than seeing darkness, he also saw a dagger that was like a black light shooting towards him like a meteor. Before he could react, the black dagger stabbed between his eyebrows. At this critical moment, a black scroll suddenly appeared between Zhou's eyebrows and automatically spread out, blocking the dagger's attack. It was the Death Immunity Scroll that Zhou had exchanged from the God of Death with a Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystal a long time ago. At this moment, it had a life-saving effect. Algernon, who had the intention to kill, was immediately stunned when he saw the black scroll. What's the relationship between this human lord and His Excellency the God of Death? He was actually given such a treasure by His Excellency the God of Death. Algernon thought in a daze. Zhou also saw Algernon standing rooted to the ground. This was a good opportunity. Zhou's eyes lit up. With a thought. Buzz. A holy sword made of gold and white quickly condensed in his hand. It was the newly obtained nomological skill, Holy Light Sword. In the next moment, Zhou disappeared from where he was. Then, he appeared in front of Algernon out of thin air. Finally, he stabbed his sword into Algernon's heart without hesitation. Puff. The holy light sword passed through his body. Algernon lowered his head in a daze and looked at the holy light sword that had pierced through his chest. Then, he looked at Zhou, who had a resolute gaze in front of him. His eyes gradually became blank, and the aura on his body gradually weakened until it completely disappeared. Boom! Algernon fell to the ground weakly, stirring up some smoke and dust. Zhou looked at the corpse in joy and disbelief. He had actually killed a low-tier God Spirit elementary grade 3 levels higher than the diamond-tier advanced grade God Spirit. Even though this God Spirit was at the lowest level, it was still a true God Spirit. He had actually done such an unbelievable thing. At this moment, Bai Yin Wu Xian, Feng Luo Suan, and the others also looked at this scene in a daze. Clearly, they did not expect their lord to actually achieve such an achievement. Zhou ignored their reactions and looked at the kill notification in front of him. Zhou ignored their reactions and looked at the kill notification in front of him. Blessing of the War God. You have obtained an additional 160 billion promotion energy points. Boom. The surging promotion energy suddenly appeared in Zhou heart. Then it surged into various parts of his body in an extremely gentle manner, strengthening his body and soul. Zhou's body trembled. Then he felt an even stronger power circulating in his body. He looked at the strength column in his stats list. His guess was right. He had broken through extraordinary tier elementary grade. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. He did not expect to break through again not long after he advanced to the diamond tier advanced grade, and directly advanced to the extraordinary tier elementary grade. The extraordinary tier. This level was already considered top-notch combat strength among the local kingdom-level factions in the High Continent. He could be considered an intermediate-level expert even in the entire myriad worlds. Zhou was very satisfied. Then, his gaze landed on Algernon's corpse. He squatted down, placed his hand on it, and began to extract it. Lord Talent notification. Your loots have been enhanced by the King of Loots, Perfect Loots. Grade +1. Title hint. Your loots have been affected by the title of the strongest lord. The number of loots has increased by 150%. Lord Talent notification. You have obtained Perfect Loots, 150 Divine Crystals, Middle Level God Tier Elementary Grade, 3 Shadow Child Divine Spark Fragments, Middle Level God Tier Elementary Grade, 3 Shadow Massacre Divine Spark Fragments, Middle Level God Tier Elementary Grade, 3 Death Shadow Rays Equipment, Middle Level God Tier Elementary Grade, 3 Shadow Cloak Equipment, Middle Level God Tier Elementary Grade, 1 God Spirit Book, Middle Level God Tier Elementary Grade, 10 Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Algernon's corpse instantly turned into a ray of light and fused into Zhou's king's treasure chest, turning into a large number of loots. Zhou looked at them one by one. The first was the divine crystals. They were seed-sized items that were completely crystal clear and suffused with golden light. Treasure name: Divine Crystal. Treasure grade: Mid-level God Tier Elementary Grade. Treasure effect: the transaction currency of God Spirits. It can also be one of the sources of God Spirit's divine power. It is an extremely precious currency. Treasure description: treasures used by God Spirits to trade and increase their strength. Even God Spirits value them very much. So this is the transaction currency of the God Spirits. Moreover, it can be used as a source of divine power for God Spirits. It can even increase the strength of God Spirits. What a good treasure! Zhou's eyes lit up. He put it away solemnly and looked at the treasures behind him. Treasure name: Divine Spark Fragment, God of Shadow and Assassination, Son of Shadow. Treasure grade: Mid-level God Tier Advanced Grade. Treasure effect: the user has a chance to comprehend the famous law skill of the God of Shadow and Assassination, Son of Shadow, with the Divine Spark Fragment. Treasure description: the Divine Spark Fragment of the God of Shadow and Assassination. Those who are talented in the law of shadow and assassination can comprehend his famous law skill, Son of Shadow. Treasure name: Divine Spark Fragment, God of Shadow and Assassination, Shadow Massacre. Treasure grade: Mid-level God Tier Advanced Grade. Treasure effect: the user holding the Divine Spark Fragment has a chance to comprehend the famous law skill of the God of Shadow and Assassination, Shadow Massacre. Treasure description: the Divine Spark Fragment of the God of Shadow and Assassination. Those who are talented in the law of shadow and assassination can comprehend his famous law skill, Shadow Massacre. Zhou looked at the 6 Divine Spark Fragments and nodded in satisfaction. These were 6 law skills. Not only could he learn it, but he could also distribute it to his subordinates to master. This way, he would not have to deal with law skill level experts personally as a lord in the future. Chapter 535 Law Skill and Divine Artifact. Zhou took a Son of Shadow Divine Spark Fragment and a Shadow Massacre Divine Spark Fragment and chose to learn them without hesitation. In the next moment, his vision darkened as he entered the memories of the God of Shadow and Assassination. The God of Shadow and Assassination was called Shi before becoming a god. She understood one thing ever since he had memories. He wanted to kill an existence in the future. This existence was at the legendary God Spirit level. He had to become a god in the future in order to kill a god. This was because only God spirits could deal with God spirits. He did not know why he wanted to deal with that God spirit, but he was willing to believe in this innate talent intuition. This was because he felt that this was his natural mission and fate. He could not avoid it. Therefore, he began to train his body, since he was young, to strengthen his physical fitness and assassination ability. Later on, his unique behavior accidentally attracted the attention of an assassin boss, even though he did not have many friends when he was young. In the end, the assassin boss took Shi away and taught him how to fight, allowing him to embark on the extraordinary tier path of an assassin. Right on the heels of that, the world changed. Countless normal animals absorbed unknown spiritual energy and became powerful extraordinary tier monsters. As for the monsters that were already extraordinary tier, their strength had advanced further and become even more terrifying super creatures. Doomsday descended because of this. On Doomsday, she used a dagger to wander in the shadows and assassinate countless monster creatures, saving more and more clansmen and building shelters. He grew stronger in the process, until he became a god immediately. The moment he became a god, he also learned the truth of Doomsday through this world's will. A high-level god tier expert, whose strength was infinitely close to the true god tier, had died in this world. On the one hand, it would increase the world's slot and the strength of the creatures in the world, and the will of a high-level god was also invading the will of this world, wanting to replace it. The worlds will sense the danger, so it chose it, which had the best talent and potential in the world, to grow quickly and deal with the will left behind by a high-level god. With the help of the world's will, she defeated that high-level god tier. At the same time, his strength increased to the level of a mid-level god tier advanced grade. The world's will was saved. Later on, in order to make a further breakthrough, she was sent to the High Continent by the world's will. However, later on, during the training in the High Continent, she encountered danger and died. However, even though he had died, his soul had been taken back to his world by the world's will because it was the son of the world and participated in the Doomsday. After going through that period of remembering, Zhou only had the Son of Shadow and Shadow Massacre as two designated law skills to choose from. He naturally did not have any thoughts and chose to learn them directly. Then he mastered these two law skills. Zhou opened his eyes. I didn't expect to experience the God Ascension experience of the Son of the World of a small world. But the High Continent is really dangerous. Even the Son of the World will die on the High Continent. Zhou lamented. Then he opened these two law skills. Law skill name: Son of Shadow. Law skill quality: mid-level god tier advanced grade. Law skill power description: the owner of the law skill is a favorite of the Law of Shadow. He can easily comprehend the existence of the Law of Shadow. During the process of comprehending it, there is a high chance of comprehending skills related to the Law of Shadow, and a very small chance of comprehending the corresponding law skill of the Law of Shadow. Law skill name: Shadow Massacre. Law skill quality: mid-level god tier advanced grade. Law skill power description: the law skill controller can hide in the darkness and shadow, completely hiding his figure, aura, killing intent, voice, and all other factors that might expose his location. Only light-type law skills of the same level can tell the location of the owner of the law skill. When the law skill controller hid in the darkness and shadow to fight, he would not leave his invisibility state. During the killing process in the shadow, if the law skill controller kills the target, his physical fitness will obtain a weak permanent enhancement. My good lord! What top-grade law skills! Zhou looked at the two law skills in surprise. Of these two law skills, one could increase the law talent, making the owner of the law skill a favorite of the shadow law. The other was an enhanceable law skill that could make one permanently invisible and become stronger in killing. Even though Zhou did not know much about god spirits, he felt that any of these two law skills would probably make many normal life forms, and even god spirits, tempted. I can reward the remaining Son of Shadow and Shadow Massacre to the generals who have made contributions in the future. Zhou looked at the remaining 4 divine spark fragments and thought to himself. Then, he put them away and looked at the other 6 pieces of equipment. 3 of the equipment were death shadow rays. The other 3 pieces of equipment were the shadow cloaks. Most importantly, they were all divine artifacts. Zhou took a deep breath and looked over. The first was the Death Shadow Rays. The Death Shadow Rays was a gray dagger. Even though it looked ordinary, Zhou naturally would not underestimate it. Information about the divine artifact appeared. Divine artifact name, Death Shadow Rays. Divine artifact grade, mid-level god tier advanced grade. Divine artifact law 1 death mark. Gives the enemy in your field of vision a death mark. Then no matter where the enemy is, the owner of the Death Shadow Rays can sense the enemy's location. At the same time, the enemy marked by the death mark will be enveloped in the shadow of death and feel the fear of death at all times. Note, at the same time, the death mark can only mark one enemy. Divine Artifact Law 2, Weakness Assassination. During battle with an enemy recorded by the death mark, the user has a small chance of seeing through the other party's weakness. If you attack this weakness, the enemy will suffer greater damage. Prompt. It can recognize its master as its soul. Zhou's eyes lit up. The effect of this Death Shadow Rays' first ability, Death Mark, was not bad. It was almost equivalent to an unlimited use of the Compass of the Soul of Vengeance effect. Still, the Compass of the Soul of Vengeance did not need to lock onto the enemy in its field of vision. It only needed to think about the enemy directly to lock onto the enemy's location. In addition, even though the Compass of the Soul of Vengeance would not make the enemy feel the threat of death at all times, it would not make the enemy sense it. From this point of view, Zhou still preferred the Compass of the Soul of Vengeance more. However, the death mark of the Death Shadow Rays could be reused. There was only one use left of the Compass of the Soul of Vengeance. In that case, both could be considered to have their advantages and disadvantages. Not to mention, this death mark could also be connected to the next divine artifact law, Weakness Assassination, a top-grade offensive divine artifact. Zhou was a little stunned by the attributes of this divine artifact. Chapter 536 New Ability of the Chaos Human Bloodline. Book of God Spirit. In addition, he roughly understood why divine artifacts were called divine artifacts. This was because the divine artifact actually carried law skills that only God spirits could master. In other words, it was the law of the divine artifact. In this way, a God spirit with a divine artifact was equivalent to mastering other law skills. In that case, the combat strength of a God spirit who had grasped a divine artifact and a God spirit who had not. They were almost two different combat strengths. At the thought of this, Zhou immediately recognized the soul of one of the Death Shadow Rays' divine artifacts as its master. Soon, he felt an additional close connection between him and this divine artifact. He vaguely felt that even if he was separated from this divine artifact in the future, as long as the distance between the two was within this connection, he could let this divine artifact fly to his side with a thought. And what surprised him the most was, he realized that he could actually activate this divine artifact. He was a lord who had just stepped into the extraordinary tier elementary grade, and could actually cross nearly 4 major levels to activate this mid-level god tier advanced grade divine artifact. The reason why it could be activated was because as a chaos human, the chaotic origin energy in his body could replace divine power to a certain extent to control the divine artifact. This was also what he had just found out. So, the characteristic of my chaos human bloodline is that not only can I absorb and optimize the bloodline of all races, but I can also use my unique chaos origin energy to control the divine artifact in advance? The joy in Zhou's expression became even more obvious. The original spirit race was born as the god of the small world in their bodies. The chaos gods race was born with the chaotic divine vessel and could become god spirits without any bottlenecks. The shepherd's god race was born with the ability to master god spirit abilities, law skills. These 3 top-notch races were all born with bloodline abilities related to god spirits. Zhou had always thought that his chaos human bloodline was not inferior to these 3 top races. However, he had always felt that his chaos human bloodline was a little lacking in god spirit related abilities. It was not that his chaos human bloodline was lacking, but because he had never encountered a divine artifact until now. His mixed human bloodline could actually simulate divine power and control divine artifacts with a non-god spirit body. From this point of view, his chaos human bloodline was not inferior to the three races. With a thought, Zhou put this divine artifact into the king's treasure box in his glabella space. Then, he looked at the information of another divine artifact. Divine artifact name, Shadow Cloak. Divine artifact grade, mid-level god tier advanced grade. Divine artifact law, Shadow Concealment. The Bodhi's Shadow Cloak can enter a permanent invisibility state. If the user has an invisibility ability, Shadow Concealment can greatly increase the user's own invisibility ability while maintaining the ability of the divine artifact law. Prompt: it can recognize its master as its soul. Zhou's expression was much calmer when he saw the divine artifact. The laws of this divine artifact were almost similar to the invisibility effect of the Shadow Massacre law skill. Other than the complementary effect, there were no other characteristics. But even so, it was also a divine artifact. Zhou naturally recognized its soul as its master. Then, he put away the divine artifacts and looked at the last loots. Treasure name, Book of the God Spirit, Treasure grade, mid-level god tier advanced grade, Treasure effect. A mythical tier book that records the path of the god of shadow and assassination, stream to godhood. After using it, you can walk the path of becoming the god of shadow and assassination. Treasure description, God Inheritance Book. After using it, you can walk on a smooth path to becoming a god. But whether you can really become a god in the end depends on the user himself. Zhou took a deep breath after reading the information of this treasure. He could not hide the shock in his eyes. He did not expect this. This was actually a God Spirit Inheritance book that could allow life forms to walk the path to becoming gods. With this book of God Spirit, the person who used it could follow the path that this God Spirit had already walked on to become a god. This kind of becoming a god was equivalent to having a teacher by his side and personally demonstrating the steps of becoming a god to his disciple. The difficulty of becoming a god was almost thousands of times easier than living beings without the book of God Spirit. What a treasure! But who should I give it to? Zhou pondered. As a lord, even though he did not know how to choose his path to becoming a god, he would definitely not take the path of an assassin becoming a god. It was just too dangerous. No other reason. Moreover, he also looked down on the God Spirit book of the mid-level god tier advanced grade. As the strongest lord of all races from the previous event, his target was at least a true god tier. If Zhou could master god tier, or even the lord of all races would be where his ambition lay. I'll give it to Suan. Zhou quickly thought. Suan was an assassin to begin with. This book of God Spirit could be said to be quite suitable for the other party. Moreover, with his master god tier advanced grade potential, he could definitely greatly increase the speed at which he became the god of shadow and assassination. It was even easy to surpass the god of shadow and assassination. This mid-level god tier advanced grade God Spirit book will not restrict Suan's future. It will only speed up the realization of his potential. Zhou thought to himself as he looked at the book of God Spirit. He stopped thinking about it and called Suan over. Soon Suan came over. Greetings, Your Majesty. Suan said respectfully. MHM, you've made many contributions recently. I called you over to reward you. Zhou went straight to the point. This is my duty. Suan said calmly. If you make contributions, you will be rewarded. If you make mistakes, you will be punished. No need to say anything else. Zhou did not waste his breath and handed over the book of God Spirit and the two divine spark fragments. With this divine spark fragment that recorded the two law skills, Son of Shadow and Shadow Massacre, Suan's path to becoming a god should be able to accelerate again. After the God Spirit assassination just now, Zhou urgently hoped that a God Spirit would appear among his subordinates. On the other side, after seeing the item handed over by Zhou, Suan took it respectfully with both hands. When he saw the information of these treasures, his body immediately trembled, and his eyes were filled with shock. When Zhou saw this, a smile appeared on his face. Ever since this kid recovered his memories, he had always maintained an assassin's expression and no longer looked like a young kid. Zhou felt happy that his tricks had succeeded now that he saw that he could not hold back his expression because of these treasures. This reward should be worthy of your attention, right? Zhou said deliberately. Suan took a deep breath, his expression becoming even more respectful. He said gratefully, "Thank you for the reward, Your Majesty. I won't be able to repay Your Majesty's kindness, even if I were to die 10,000 times." Zhou stood up and walked to Suan's side. He patted his shoulder. "We're all on the same side. There's no need to say this," he said. Suan had long become his dead loyal subject. Zhou had always been very generous to his dead loyal subjects. Suan did not say anything else, and silently recorded this kindness in his heart. The kindness of the hero inheritance, the kindness of his aptitude increasing, the kindness of his path to becoming a god. Suan did not know how to repay the Lord after all the kindness. All he could do was let his sword continuously clear the obstacles on the way for his Lord until the day he dies in battle. Chapter 537 Li Ya's Thoughts. Black Cloth. Suan left to absorb this book of god spirits and embark on the smooth path of becoming a god spirit. As for failure, that was naturally impossible. If a genius with the potential of a master god tier advanced grade could not even become a god, Zhou would question the significance of his potential in the stats information that the Supreme will set up. After Suan left, Zhou opened his attribute panel and looked at the law skill he had mastered. They were law skills: Absolute Light Law Skill, Holy Light Sword Law Skill, Son of Shadow Law Skill, Shadow Massacre. Zhou looked at the 4 law skills and nodded in satisfaction. This number of law skills was probably comparable to some existences who had just entered the low-tier deity realm. Then his gaze landed on the law skill, the Holy Light Sword, and he rejoiced. Fortunately, I had epic tier Lord talent intuition, which allowed me to choose the Holy Light Sword as a law skill back then. Otherwise, I didn't even have any means to break the defense of the divine artifact cloak of the god of shadow rays and hidden murder just now. If that really happened, I might really die. Even though I have the power of the final nirvana to revive, the number of resurrections is precious. It's better to save as much as possible. In that case, my guess back then was right. The epic tier Lord talent intuition, might not be useful usually, but it might be able to save lives at the critical moment. Zhou's eyes lit up. This Lord talent was indeed not trash. At this moment, Aaliyah knocked on the door and walked in. "Your Majesty, Princess Leia requests an audience," she said respectfully. "Let her in." Aaliyah received the order and left. Soon Leia quickly walked in. Zhou smiled and walked over. Just as he was about to say something, he saw Leia pounce into his arms and hug him tightly. "You scared me to death. I heard that a god spirit came to assassinate you. At that time I thought. Leia sobbed softly and did not dare to say the rest. "Aren't I fine now?" Zhou stroked her hair. It felt good to be cared for by the girl he liked, and a smile subconsciously appeared on his face. "Are you really okay?" Leia stood up, wanting to check if Zhou was injured. Zhou smiled as he let him examine him. After a long time, Leia finally heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that Zhou was really not injured. "Look, I told you I was fine." Zhou smiled. "You're amazing. The god spirit actually didn't hurt you, and was even killed by you." Leia looked at Zhou with admiration like a little girl. She had gotten rid of her status as a princess of a dangerous country, and became Zhou's woman. The current Leia had gradually shed her cautious personality, and become as carefree as an ordinary girl. Not only did she dare to say what she did not dare to say in the past, she was also unabashedly willing to express her admiration for her man. Zhou liked her change very much. This also proved his ability as a man and a lord. God spirits are not immortal, of course we can kill them. It's not like no god spirit has died in the past. Zhou shook his head. "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. That god spirit disturbed our rest just now. Let's continue resting now," Zhou said. Leia nodded. Soon the bedroom light went out again. After the two of them battled each other on the bed, until Zhou fully proved his ability to conquer as a lord and successfully defeated Leah. On the bed. When are you going to see my father? Leah hugged Zhou and asked. What's wrong? Are you in such a hurry to hand the Aurora Kingdom to me? Zhou said with a mischievous smile. Leah nodded. The Aurora Kingdom caused my brothers to die on the battlefield. Therefore, the Aurora Kingdom is both a heavy responsibility and a burden that my father can't bear to continue, even though you used that magical pastry to make my father younger. But I can tell that even though father looks younger on the surface, his heart still looks like he has suffered and is old. It's a good thing for father to unburden himself as soon as possible. Leah said worriedly. I'll go to the Aurora Kingdom tomorrow. Zhou promised. He actually had the same intention. Leah nodded. Then, she suddenly thought of something and could not help but smile. Speaking of which, I wonder how father will feel when he finds out that you've already established your own kingdom by occupying the Taiyan Kingdom before accepting the Aurora Kingdom? She smiled. Zhou smiled and did not say anything. How could taking over a ready-made kingdom give a man a greater sense of accomplishment than directly conquering a kingdom himself? He did not say anything else. After chatting with Leah for a while, they fell asleep together. At the same time, in the Netherbark Kingdom, Pope Floyd had been in an excited state ever since he sent Algernon to assassinate the Queen of the Blazing Sun, fantasizing about his future after obtaining the divine artifact of the race. This King of the Blazing Sun is also a fool. Floyd was extremely excited. How long has this guy been in the High Continent? He actually dares to build a kingdom. He muttered to himself. Ha ha ha, once he establishes a kingdom, the rules of the Supreme Agreement that restrict our movements will be ineffective. We veteran kingdom-level lord factions will no longer have any scruples, and can use any means to take the initiative to attack the Blazing Sun King. And I, as the oldest kingdom-level lord faction closest to the Blazing Sun Kingdom, a huge opportunity like a race divine artifact should be an opportunity given to me by the supreme will. When the time comes, this Pope will offer the divine artifact of the race to His Excellency the God of Death again. When the God of Death is happy, he might directly give me the deity position of an Elven of Death. Floyd's eyes were burning with ambition. The Elven of Death. As the closest divine servants to the God of Death, there were only about 100 of them in total in the past countless years. Countless years ago, when the God of Death, Thanatos, used the Soul Reaper army to wantonly conquer the life forms of the myriad worlds, the Elven of Death was the person in charge of important positions in the various Soul Reaper armies. Important positions like Legion Commander and Deputy Commander were also held by the Angel of Death. It could be seen how extraordinary the Elven of Death was. As long as he could become an Elven of Death, he could immediately become a high-level deity without even cultivating. This was the special authority given to the Elven of Death by the God of Death, Thanatos. If he could become an Elven of Death, he could almost be considered to have reached the heavens in a single step. When the time comes, the position of Pope, he wouldn't even look at it. Just as he was fantasizing about the future, a black cloth that emitted the aura of death suddenly flew out from his waist and floated in front of him. Floyd was stunned when he saw the black cloth. Chapter 538 Floyd's Fear. A million new soldiers. Floyd naturally knew this black cloth. This black cloth was an oracle from the God of Death. More than 100 years ago, a holy son was born here. In order to reward their church, the God of Death specially asked Algernon to bring the oracle here. From then on, the past popes could use this oracle to let Algernon save their church once at a critical moment. After Algernon took action, this oracle would leave the church and return to His Excellency the God of Death. Still, what is going on now? Floyd's eyes were blank. Logically speaking, the matter between him and Algernon should be considered a transaction and a private matter between the two of them. This situation shouldn't trigger the God of Death's oracle, right? Why did the God of Death's oracle emerge on its own? Just as Floyd was in a daze. Rip. The sound of cloth tearing could be heard. Under Floyd's terrified gaze, This oracle from the god of death, a treasure that their god of death church had treasured for more than 100 years, actually ripped into pieces in front of it. Right on the heels of that, these oracle fragments suddenly ignited with black flames and burned themselves in midair before dissipating with the wind. Floyd watched this scene with a frozen expression. There was only one thought in his mind: the god of shadow rays and hidden murder. Algernon was dead. This oracle that concerned him would only burn itself and dissipate it only when he was dead. How is that possible? Could it be that he didn't succeed in killing the Blazing Sun King and was killed by him instead? What kind of joke was this? A god who specialized in shadow rays and assassination, even if he was only at the lowest low-tier deity elementary grade, he shouldn't be killed by a human lord who had just established a beginner kingdom. However, the truth was in front of him. No matter how unwilling he was to believe it, Floyd had to believe it. Its expression was uncertain for a while. Then it suddenly remembered the Titan King's words. Alliance with the Titan King? No. One Titan Kingdom is not enough. I want to gather more kingdom-level lord forces to deal with this King of the Blazing Sun together. At this moment, Floyd had already regarded Jojo as the most difficult enemy in his life, and decided to activate a power he could use to destroy him. Blazing Sun City. There were no more accidents in the latter half of the night. Jojo naturally woke up in the morning. Then, he came to the gate of summoning alone after breakfast with Li Ya. A text notification appeared. Prompt: do you want to summon immediately? Yes. The gate of summoning suddenly lit up with a bright white light. Then a large number of subjects walked out. A moment later, 1,955 new subjects walked out of the gate of summoning. Greetings, my lord. X1, 955. All the new subjects said respectfully. Welcome to Blazing Sun City, Jojo said. Then he asked all the professionals to stand up, and realized that he had summoned 136 professionals this time. There were 51 more professionals than usual. Then he began to check the information of these professional subjects. Among the 106 professional subjects were 1 white platinum tier advanced grade appraiser, 1 white platinum tier advanced grade archaeologist, 1 white platinum tier advanced grade mage, 1 white platinum tier advanced grade martial artist, and 1 white platinum tier advanced grade architect. The rest were white platinum tier intermediate grade and below life professionals and combat professionals. Then, he asked the staff beside him to arrange the work of these new subjects. Then, he led his troops to clean up one side of the time ruins, went to the golem lair to summon the 126 golems today, and finally arrived at the monster ranch. And now, a total of 36 monster ranches nurtured a total of 720,000 fog monsters, with the highest white platinum tier advanced grade. Even though it was far inferior to the number of soldiers under his command, it was still enough to be an appetizer for his soldiers before the war. He did not waste any time, and asked the soldiers to start cleaning up the monster ranch. A moment later, the monster ranch was cleaned up, and all the loots were extracted. In terms of the mist cores, he had obtained a total of 61,239,680 green bronze tier mist cores, 18,423,360 white silver tier mist cores, 9,017,780 yellow gold tier mist cores, 4,707,010 white platinum tier mist cores, and 161,100 diamond tier mist cores. There were also 1,217,780 soldier type class change certificates, 140,000 king of yellow gold recruitment books, 140,000 king of yellow gold class change certificates, 61,420 poison crossbow soldier recruitment books, 960 elemental archer recruitment books, 179,630 aurora cavalry recruitment books, 280,000 violent storm spirit recruitment books, 280,000 violent storm spirit class change certificates, 162 fragments of the Proof of Legion, 363,984 True Faith Tier Scarlet Crystals, 206,056 Pious Tier Scarlet Crystals, 149,960 Fanatic Tier Scarlet Crystals, 311 white platinum tier and yellow gold tier mount contracts. 80,000 iron-eating bear pet eggs. 80,000 Fear Falcon wings and Fear Falcon 3 radar. 13. 5 million units of original gold. As for the other loots, Zhou did not look at them much, because they were not very important, and there were too many types. He looked at the total number of soldier-type recruitment books and smiled. 1,082,010 books. The recruitment books provided by the Monster Ranch alone reached 1 million in a day. It directly increased his military strength by 1 million. Awesome. Zhou put them into the king's treasure box without another word. Then, he went to the gate of summoning and began to summon them. At this moment, a line of text appeared. Kingdom Authority. You can spend 100 white platinum tier mist cores to immediately summon all the soldiers you want to recruit. Kingdom Authority. You can spend 100 white platinum tier mist cores to immediately summon all the soldiers you want to recruit. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. There's actually such a kingdom privilege? To the current him, 100 white platinum tier mist cores were nothing. Compared to this, the hour or two saved from immediately recruiting 1 million soldiers could be far more valuable to him than 100 white platinum tier mist cores. Therefore, he could not save this mist core. As the 100 white platinum tier mist cores disappeared, a large number of humanoid shadows suddenly appeared in front of the gate of summoning. Right on the heels of that, these humanoid phantoms quickly condensed and turned into human subjects. A total of 1 million subjects instantly appeared in front of the gate of summoning. Fortunately, Zhou had left a large amount of empty space here in advance. Otherwise, there would probably be people stepping on people. At this moment, Bai Yin quickly came over and brought these 1,082,010 recruits to the Blazing Sun Army. I have 4,353,287 soldiers under my command now. This doesn't include the more than 6 million people in the Star Alliance. Moreover, the insight defection of the Lords of the Star Alliance, and I haven't used it today. After today, the military strength under my command will increase again. Zhou had a smile on his face. Your Majesty, there are 11 subjects outside who jointly want to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom. They all seem to have extraordinary abilities. My lord, do you want to take a look? At this moment, Zheng Yuanqi quickly walked over and said. Zhou immediately reacted. These were his mythical reputation rating talents and reputation rating talents. Let's go take a look. Zhou immediately said. Zheng Yuanqi nodded. Then the two of them walked towards the 11 people. Chapter 539 Mythical Reputation Rating Talent. Qi Xiantian, King of Wind. When Zhou saw those talents with reputation rating and mythical reputation rating, he realized that there were not 11 of them, but 17 of them. At this moment, a soldier in charge of guarding them quickly walked over and reported respectfully, Your Majesty. Not long after they arrived, 6 more humans with extraordinary auras came to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom. That's them. The soldier pointed at the 6 new subjects. Zhou nodded. He remembered just thinking about it. Among the 17 people, 10 talents attracted by reputation rating and 1 mythical reputation rating person were rewarded by the Lord of all races. The other 5 talents should be the 5 talents attracted by reputation rating rewarded by the Lord of Cerulean Planet's world announcement when he broke through the Taiyan Kingdom and obtained the Kingdom Token. There were 16 of them. As for the last person should be a talent attracted by one of the effects of his white silver tier lord talent, Embrace of the Conqueror. After conquering a kingdom, you can obtain the loyalty of a hero with an extraordinary tier hero fate level slot. Previously, when he obtained the Kingdom Token of the Taiyan Kingdom, he had indeed heard the notification that an extraordinary tier hero would pledge loyalty to him. From the looks of it, it should be one of them. Then, he began to look at their attribute information. Among the 15 talents attracted by reputation rating, there were 2 extraordinary tier advanced grade architects, 2 extraordinary tier advanced grade blacksmiths, 3 extraordinary intermediate grade martial artists, 3 extraordinary intermediate grade bloodline warlocks, 3 extraordinary tier intermediate grade array masters, and 2 extraordinary elementary grade farmers. A mythical reputation rating talent was an immortal Dao cultivator. He was young and handsome, and his eyes revealed a faint abhorrence of evil. He carried an immortal sword that emitted a faint 5-colored light on his back. He looked extraordinary and like an immortal. Subject: Qi Xiantian. Combat class name: Sword God. Class: Epic tier advanced grade. Battle class name: Qi Practitioner. Strength level: Epic tier advanced grade. Body fusion late stage. Ability overview. From the Myriad Sword Immortal Sect in the Immortal World. He is the most dazzling genius of the Myriad Sword Immortal Sect. He was born with the Heavenly Sword Immortal body, and has extraordinary attainments in the Sword Dao and Immortal Dao cultivation. The most glorious battle record was when he used the Myriad Sword Immortal formation to kill an expert at the true Immortal tier elementary grade as an Epic tier advanced grade Sword Immortal. As long as he doesn't die, he is destined to dominate the Immortal Dao in the future. Skills: Talent: Heavenly Sword Immortal Body Talent, Immortal Sword Summoning Talent, Heavenly Sword Heart Illumination Talent, 5 Elements Spirit Body, Epic tier advanced grade Myriad Sword Immortal Scripture, Epic tier advanced grade Myriad Sword Immortal Formation, Epic tier advanced grade Immortal Sword Heart Array, Epic tier advanced grade 5 Elements Sword Array, Epic tier intermediate grade 1000 Sword Array, Epic tier elementary grade Flying Sword Technique, Extraordinary tier, Advanced grade Flying Sword Technique. Loyalty: 95. Potential: Master God tier elementary grade Jojo Swallowed. This person was actually a body fusion late stage expert. He suddenly thought of something and asked curiously, "How's your status in your Myriad Sword Immortal Sect?" A body fusion realm expert was actually described as the most dazzling genius in his ability overview, and not a sect expert? Then how ridiculous would this Myriad Sword Immortal Sect be? Your Majesty, I was originally from the lower realm. Later on, I was discovered to have a Sword Dao constitution, so I was guided to ascend in advance, and came to the Myriad Sword Immortal Sect. Then, I directly became a true disciple of a Supreme Elder. In terms of status, I'm equivalent to a Golden Immortal tier expert in the sect. According to the levels of the Supreme Will, I'm probably at a status comparable to a mid-level God tier expert. Qi Xiantian thought for a moment and said, "My God." Zhou clicked his tongue. An Epic tier advanced grade Sword God was actually treated as equivalent to a mid-level God tier. The Myriad Sword Immortal Sect valued Qi Xiantian very much. However, he was indeed worthy of this importance. Not only did this person have high potential, he could also kill a low-tier deity head-on with just the strength of an Epic tier advanced grade. At that time, he did not have the enhancement of the Dragon Slayer's strength. He completed the kill with his true ability, as expected of a genius. It was really terrifying. He suddenly thought of something but did not say it. There was a hero beside him after all. Then he looked at the hero. Subject: Mailuan, Hero Unit. Hero Title: King of Wind. Position: Extraordinary Tier Heroes. Fate Level: Territory: Blazing Sun Kingdom. Strength Level: Extraordinary Tier Advanced Grade. Ability Overview. The original Archmage of the Guting Kingdom was good at using wind elemental magic. Later on, he left the kingdom and came to the Blazing Sun Kingdom because he was dissatisfied with the king's oppression of the subjects. He became the subject of the Blazing Sun King. Bloodline: Human Bloodline. Extraordinary Tier Advanced Grade. 80%. Wind-Splitting Demon Eagle. Epic Tier Advanced Grade. 20%. Skills: Hero Skill, Wind Elemental True Body. Hero Skill, Death Hurricane Talent, Super Elemental Affinity, Wind. Talent: Magic Genius, Extraordinary Advanced Grade Extreme Tornado, Extraordinary Advanced Grade Void Splitting Violent Storm, Intermediate Grade Swift Flying, Extraordinary Elementary Grade Gust Entanglement, Diamond Tier Advanced Grade Summoning Wind, Elemental Lord, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade Multiple Wind Blade Technique. Loyalty: 88. Potential: Epic Tier Advanced Grade. Hero Biography: 1. When the Guting Kingdom was invaded by the Abyss, he stood up and killed the Demon Lord Sexel alone, saving a large number of people. Hero's personal reputation rating +1. Human race reputation +1000. High continent reputation +1. 2. Creates many wind elemental advanced grade spells, and leaves his name in the history of magic. In the end, he successfully walked the path of a hero, and became the first king of wind. Hero's personal reputation rating +1. Human race reputation +10,000. High continent reputation +3. Zhou nodded. Including this king of wind, he now had as many as 10 heroes under his command. Even though it was far inferior to the Elven Empire, he could chase slowly. With the lord talent of the King of Lutes, he could obtain a large number of hero inheritance secret manuals. He would be able to catch up one day. Then, the staff brought these talents to their respective positions. As for this King of Wind, he was brought to the Blazing Sun Army to work. Qi Xiantian was the only sword immortal left. Can I become a Qi practitioner? Zhou went straight to the point. Qi Xiantian raised his eyebrows. He had thought that His Majesty had something to ask him, but he did not expect it to be about this. I do have the Qi practitioner class change certificate. But Your Majesty, you should have your own class, right? Qi Xiantian said. I have my own special opportunity. I can take on another class. Zhou smiled. His fighting god full-time master too could allow him to have 2 additional classes. One of them had already been occupied by the Lord of the End. He planned to become a Qi practitioner part-time for the second slot. That was because the upper limit of the Qi practitioner profession was quite high. The highest level could even be cultivated to the Sage tier, Master God tier. Moreover, the various immortal Dao spells mastered by Qi practitioners were many times stronger than other classes. Cultivating to a profound realm and moving stars, and turning the world upside down, was only a matter of seconds. Just like Qi Xiantian, he could defeat in true immortal tier elementary grade opponent with his body fusion late-stage cultivation. Firstly, his talent and opportunities were indeed powerful, allowing him to fight above his level. Secondly, the upper limit of the Qi practitioner profession was too high. However, this profession had its drawbacks. That was, it consumed extremely many resources. Qi practitioners with sufficient resources were completely different from Qi practitioners with poor resources. However, as the King of Lutes, Zhou did not lack resources the least. This was also the reason why he dared to work as a Qi practitioner. Chapter 540 Qi Practitioner. Chaos Spiritual Root. Chaos Sacred Body. Your Majesty, what an opportunity. Qi Xiantian was a little surprised. Then, he did not say anything else. He flipped his right hand, and saw a certificate filled with immortal energy appear in his hand. Zhou took it and looked at it. Item name: Qi Practitioner Class Change Certificate. Item level: Special tier. Item effect: Special Combat Class Change Tool. After using it, you can become a Special Combat Class Qi Practitioner. You will also have a Class 2 Foundation Establishment Cultivation Technique, Spit Turbidity Qigong Technique, Qi Practitioner Theoretical Common Sense, and the Initial Strength of the Qi Refinement Realm. Item description: Special Combat Class Certificate. It can allow humans to become the legendary Qi practitioners and pursue the immortal Tao of longevity. Note 1. Qi practitioners are a rare special class of the human race. Only some humans with aptitude can change their profession. Note 2. Only those with spiritual roots can cultivate as Qi practitioners. Zhou was looking forward to it when he first saw this class change certificate. However, when he saw the requirements for the spiritual root at the back, he immediately became nervous. Spiritual root? He did not know if he had a spiritual root as a chaos human, so he did not think too much about it, and chose to use it. This class change certificate, that was filled with immortal energy, turned into dense immortal energy, and surged into his glabella. A cooling feeling spread from his glabella soul to various parts of his body, making him feel comfortable. In the outside world, when Qi Xiantian saw that His Majesty had successfully used the Qi Practitioner Class Change Certificate, a smile gradually appeared on his face. But soon he was shocked. This was because in his perspective, the surface of Zhou's body was emitting a sparkling treasure light. At the same time, a faint chaotic aura appeared on the surface of his body, and a temperament that seemed to be the origin of all things naturally emitted from Zhou's body. Qi Xiantian found it difficult to describe this feeling. This feeling was like a wanderer meeting his parents and suddenly feeling like returning home. And this special physique is very powerful and has extremely high potential. It's even far superior to my heavenly sword immortal body. Qi Xiantian had a guess. However, it was precisely because of this that he was even more shocked. His heavenly sword immortal body could even be considered a heavenly Dao tier immortal body in the eyes of the higher-ups of the myriad sword immortal sect. It meant that it was only a matter of time before he reached the top of the great Dao in the future. What kind of constitution would a physique that was far more terrifying than his heavenly sword immortal body be? Moreover, this chaotic aura was also very special. Generally speaking, only existences above the zenith heaven golden immortal realm would begin to come into contact with the chaos chi. His Majesty actually had such an aura. It was really unbelievable. He suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. At the same time, Zhou opened his eyes. A professional panel exclusive to Qi practitioners appeared in front of him. Lord title, Lord of the Blazing Sun, battle class name. Qi practitioner, spiritual root. Chaos spiritual root, constitution. Chaos sacred body, Qi practitioner class. Perfected foundation establishment, void refinement early stage. Refinement Qi secret manual. Spit turbidity Qigong technique, level 2. Completed. Advancement cultivation technique required. Spell, none. Is this my immortal Dao aptitude? Chaos spiritual root? It's good to have a spiritual root. Chaos sacred body? It looks good too. Zhou chuckled as he looked at his Qi practitioner interface. It seemed that his aptitude as a chaos human was not bad as a Qi practitioner. Your Majesty, is your spiritual root a chaos spiritual root? At this moment Qi Xiantian suddenly asked. You can tell. Zhou was stunned. It's indeed a chaos spiritual root. Then His Majesty should also have the chaos sacred body. Qi Xiantian said faintly. Zhou nodded. What's so special about these two? He asked curiously. The chaos spiritual root can cultivate all types of immortal Dao cultivation techniques in the world. The 5 elements, wind, lightning, light, darkness, ice, blood, qi. All kinds of cultivation techniques can be cultivated. Thousands of great Dao will open the door to your Majesty. As for the chaos sacred body, it gives the owner supreme comprehension, allowing them to learn and master the myriad immortal Dao spells in the world. Moreover, their bodies can produce chaotic Dharma power with chaotic Dharma power. They can activate countless spells without any conflict. It's said that the chaos sacred body can also control thousands of bloodlines in the world. However, this matter is too unbelievable. Many Qi practitioners don't know if it's true or not. I'm not sure either. Qi Xiantian said. Zhou was deep in thought. These abilities were quite compatible with the abilities of the chaos human bloodline. However, he did not feel any supreme comprehension. Perhaps it was because his current chaos human bloodline had yet to be upgraded to the top. Your Majesty, your current Qi practitioner cultivation is limited by the level of your cultivation technique. You can only advance to the perfected foundation establishment realm. This is a cultivation technique that can continue to break through. You can cultivate it to continue increasing the Qi practitioner realm. Qi Xiantian took out a jade stone and handed it to Zhou. Zhou took it and read it. Treasure name, cultivation transfer jade slip. Treasure grade, gradeless, treasure effect. It records an immortal Dao cultivation technique, the Chaos Origin Manual. This cultivation technique was created by the legendary Chaos Human and can only be learned by the Chaos Human. Later on, as the Chaos Human disappeared, no one cared about this cultivation technique. Treasure description. A cultivation technique inheritance treasure of the immortal Dao civilization. It records a lost immortal Dao cultivation technique. Where did you get this cultivation technique? Zhou was pleasantly surprised. This cultivation technique was the most suitable for him. I found it in the Sex Sutra library. I saw that even though this cultivation technique can't be cultivated, some of its internal cultivation theories are very profound and classic, so I took it and often comprehended it. Qi Xiantian said, "This cultivation technique is what I need." Zhou said, "As long as your majesty needs it." Qi Xiantian said, "You can go to the military officer and collect 1 million military merits later. Treat it as a reward for the class change certificate and this cultivation technique. There should be a lot of resources you need there." Zhou thought for a moment and said, Qi Xiantian did not refuse. As a body fusion qi practitioner, he indeed needed a huge number of cultivation resources to increase his strength realm. Then, the two of them parted ways after chatting for a while. Zhou returned to his beginner Great Lord's paradise and entered the cultivation room to learn and cultivate this Chaos Origin Manual. More than an hour later, in the cultivation room, Zhou opened his eyes and retracted the terrifying spiritual pressure that naturally emitted from his body. Then, he opened his Qi Practitioner interface. Lord title, Lord of the Blazing Sun, battle class name. Qi Practitioner, Spiritual Root. Chaos Spiritual Root, Constitution. Chaos Sacred Body, Qi Practitioner level. Void Refinement Realm Early Stage. Qi Refinement Secret Manual. Chaos Origin Manual Stage 6 Tier 1. Spells. Chaotic Flying Spear Technique, Chaotic Beast Hunting Axe Technique, Chaotic Ancient Armor Technique, Chaotic Healing Technique, Chaotic Battle Dance, Chaotic Tao Worship Ceremony. Zhou felt his powerful strength and a smile subconsciously appeared on his face. The current me is at least 10 times stronger than before. He muttered to himself. After a long time, he restrained his emotions and began to check his new spells. Chapter 541 To the Aurora Kingdom. Cerulean Planets, All-Channel Lord Announcement. Zhou looked at the 6 Dharma spells from the Chaos Origin Manual. According to the Chaos Origin Manual, it could be called a spell or a Chaos Tao technique. Among these 6 chaotic Tao techniques, the Chaos Spear Technique, the Chaos Beast Hunter Axe Technique, the Chaos Ancient Armor Technique, and the Chaos Battle Dance were all Tao techniques used for daily battles. Only the Chaotic Healing Technique was used to heal injuries. According to the Chaos Origin Manual, the Chaos humans originally lived in chaos. Their lives were somewhat similar to primitive tribes. They needed to hunt chaos beasts in the chaos environment to maintain their lives. And so, these combat Tao techniques and healing Tao techniques were born. The only special thing was the chaotic Tao ritual. Zhou looked at the specific information of this Tao technique. Skill name: Chaos Tao Worship Ceremony. Skill quality: Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade. Skill description: Holding a grand sacrifice to an unknown existence to increase the level of your chaotic human bloodline. Note: the unknown existence has died. This skill cannot be used. Zhou looked at this skill and frowned slightly. So it's a useless skill. But what is the unknown existence? He was curious. Then he shook his head and did not think too much about it. It was obvious that this unknown existence was too far away from him. There was no point in thinking too much. At this moment, Aaliyah came over and said that Suan had come to see him. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Suan said respectfully. "How's the use of the Book of God's Spirit?" Zhou asked. "I didn't let His Majesty down. I have completely absorbed the power of the Book of God's Spirit and obtained the inheritance of the God of Shadow and Assassination," Suan said respectfully. In addition, his ability introduction also stated that the other party had obtained the inheritance of a God spirit and was climbing the path to becoming a god. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. With Suan's Master God tier advanced grade aptitude, becoming a god in the future was a sure bet, a shoo-in. Coupled with his newly upgraded epic tier blessing of the war god, Suan's speed of becoming a god would definitely increase. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before a god spirit appears in his territory. After that, Suan and him walked out of the beginner grade lord's paradise and found Bai Yin. Then, they asked her to organize the troops and wait for the upcoming war with the underworld Bark Kingdom. Meanwhile, he went to the Aurora Kingdom alone through the spatial teleportation array. In the capital of the Aurora Kingdom, Zhongqian Palace, Zhou Zhou saw Li Yuangan and hundreds of Aurora Kingdom ministers. When he entered, everyone's eyes immediately fell on him. To Zhou Zhou's surprise, he would have thought that some of these ministers would look at him with hostility and coldness. He was here to replace the old king, Li Yuangan after all. In the end, the gazes of these ministers were filled with anticipation. It was as if they welcomed him to enter the Aurora Kingdom. Zhou Zhou felt strange. However, he did not say anything. At this moment, Li Yuangan, who was sitting on the throne, suddenly stood up and cupped his hands. "Greetings, King of the Blazing Sun. Greetings, King of the Blazing Sun." The ministers followed suit and said respectfully, "You're too kind, everyone." Zhou Zhou was stunned for a moment before smiling. He was neither servile nor overbearing. He wore the Emperor and Dragon Emperor robe, and had the sword of Xian Yuan wrapped around his waist. Invisibly, he exuded the dignity of an emperor, making the Aurora Kingdom officials bow down to him. The Aurora Kingdom officials were both amazed and in disbelief. If I didn't know the trajectory of his growth along the way, I would find it hard to believe that this is a new king who has just become a king. Looking at his temperament and actions, those who don't know might think that he's a peerless emperor who has been in charge of politics for many years. It's rare, really rare. Maybe this is what it means to be a born king. The Aurora Kingdom officials sighed in their hearts. "King of the Blazing Sun, come up and sit down." Li Yuangan pointed to another throne next to his. Zhou Zhou nodded, then walked up and sat on their respective thrones with Li Yuangan. Li Yuangan looked at Zhou Zhou. The more he looked at him, the more satisfied he became. As expected of the king, he acknowledged. He originally thought that even if the other party would attack the Taiyan Kingdom, they would only attack the Taiyan Kingdom after taking over the Aurora Kingdom and integrating all the forces of both sides. Unexpectedly, not only did Zhou Zhou not do that, but he also relied on his own strength to not only crush the entire Taiyan Kingdom, but also defeat the people of foreign races sent by the Titan Kingdom and the Netherbark Kingdom. He had crushed the elite legions of the three kingdoms head-on with his own strength. Moreover, he had suffered very few losses. Most importantly, at that time, the Lord of the Blazing Sun had not even established his own kingdom. He was only a lord of all races. Such a terrifying battle record. It was unprecedented in the entire history of the human race. It would probably be very difficult for no one to come again. In addition, he had recently learned that the other party had become the strongest lord of all races in the Supreme Will event. The more Li Yuangan thought about it, the more he felt that this young man was unbelievable. He was now the most outstanding elite of the human race. In the future, he would definitely be the strongest backbone of the human race. Li Yuangan was very optimistic about Zhou Zhou's future. At the thought of this, he was even more at ease about handing the Aurora Kingdom over to the other party. Under the leadership of the other party, the citizens of the Aurora Kingdom would definitely live a better and more peaceful life. At this thought, Li Yuangan suddenly stood up with a smile and came to Zhou Zhou. He flipped his right hand, and a kingdom token appeared in his hand. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted. Zhou Zhou was no exception. "This is the kingdom token of our Aurora Kingdom." Li Yuangan looked at Zhou Zhou and smiled. "It's okay if you want to keep the Aurora Kingdom and become the king of two kingdoms. Or you can directly incorporate the Aurora Kingdom's territory into the Blazing Sun Kingdom's territory. That's your choice. I won't interfere. From now on, I'm no longer the king of the Aurora Kingdom, but an ordinary subject. You will have everything in the Aurora Kingdom." With that, he handed the kingdom token to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou stood up and took the kingdom token with both hands. A text notification appeared. Cerulean Planet's entire channel Lord announcement. Congratulations to the Lord of the Blazing Sun for successfully conquering a kingdom-level faction. Reputation rating +3. Cerulean Planet World Channel announcement. Congratulations to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. Cerulean Planet World Channel announcement. Congratulations to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. When Zhou Zhou saw the Lord announcement on the entire Cerulean Planet channel, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. It turned out that there would be a lord announcement on the entire Cerulean planet channel, as long as a kingdom was conquered. It seemed that other lords would have a chance to appear on this announcement in the future. Zhou did not pay much attention to it. He had already been on such announcements too many times. He no longer cared much about the small announcements made by such races. In any case, there were not many rewards. Greetings to the new king. At this moment, Li Yuangan said solemnly to the ministers in the hall. Greetings, my king. XN When the ministers heard this, they knelt down without hesitation and shouted. Their actions were neat, clearly prepared. Zhou looked at these ministers, and a smile appeared on his face. With a glance, he realized that the lowest level of these people was Diamond Tier Elementary Grade. There were more than 20 Extraordinary Tier officials. Even though most of them were lifestyle professionals, it was still quite rare. As expected of an elite official of the Aurora Kingdom. After he asked everyone to stand up, he looked at Li Yuangan. Father-in-law, do you have a treasure vault here? He asked telepathically. The Aurora Kingdom's treasury could be said to be the place where he valued the Aurora Kingdom the most. Li Yuangan was stunned. Then, the smile on his face became even more obvious. Yes, I'll take you there. Okay. The two of them did not say much. After letting the ministers retreat for the time being, they walked towards the kingdom's treasure vault together. Chapter 542 Again. Treasure, Great Thousand Rivers and Mountains Painting. On the way to the Aurora Kingdom's treasure vault, Zhou also looked at the other unread notifications. Lord Talent notification. Congratulations. You have captured a kingdom and triggered the White Silver Tier Lord Talent. Embrace of the Conqueror. You have obtained the loyalty of a hero with an Extraordinary Tier Hero Fate level slot. Note: this hero is rushing to your territory. Please note the latest new subject list. The Lord of the End class hint. You have destroyed a beginner kingdom level lord faction and collected 20% of the power of the Law of the End. The grade of the crown of the final has increased by another step. Current collection progress, 40%. The Lord of the End class hint. You have destroyed a beginner kingdom level lord faction and collected 100 points of final nirvana power progress. You can use 100 points of final nirvana power to exchange for a chance to revive after death and increase your strength greatly after revival. Current power of final nirvana, 100 points. Current number of resurrections, 1. The Lord of the End class hint. You have conquered a beginner kingdom lord faction. A member of the final guard has received your summon. You can summon him. Number of final guard members, 2 can be summoned. Zhou looked at the notifications and could not help but smile. He did not come to the Aurora Kingdom for nothing. Not only did he receive an announcement on the Lord of Cerulean Planet, he also received an entire Aurora Kingdom. He also received 20% of the Law of the End collection progress, 1 revivals, and the loyalty of a final guard member. It was a huge profit. It seemed that these things could not only be obtained by destroying an entire country through war. He could also obtain them by directly taking over an entire kingdom. Soon, they arrived in front of the kingdom's treasury. Even though the Aurora Kingdom's treasury was not as technologically advanced and tightly guarded as the Taiyan Kingdom's mechanical treasury, its entire body was made of dark silver profound dipper stone. This treasure vault was actually made of profound dipper stones. On one hand, it could be seen how important the treasure vault was to the previous kings of the Aurora Kingdom. On the other hand, it could also be seen how deep the foundation of the Aurora Kingdom was. Even if the Aurora Kingdom had less than 10% of its national strength left, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Li Yuangan used a key to unlock the door and asked 10 Diamond Tier soldiers to open the door together. The heavy door slowly opened with a loud bang. Seeing this, the two of them walked in. Zhou looked at the treasures in the treasure vault as he walked. Similar to the Taiyan treasure vault, this Aurora Kingdom treasure vault had mist core, equipment, blueprints, rare materials, skill books, scrolls, various pet eggs, and even specially refined pet equipment. Overall, it was slightly inferior to the Taiyan Kingdom. However, Zhou was not surprised. The Aurora Kingdom's national strength was inferior to the Taiyan Kingdom to begin with. Coupled with the fact that they were severely injured from the war, it was normal for there to be fewer treasures in the treasure vault. He put away the mist cores first. It was about the total value of 500 legendary tier mist cores. As for the other treasures, Zhou did not take them. He let Bai Yin come over later to take them all and send them back to the territory's treasure vault. A moment later, he came to an ancient-looking sheepskin map. Zhou looked at the map. This map displayed the regional map of the entire Aurora Kingdom. It covered all 40 regional territories in the entire Aurora Kingdom. Moreover, it was very complete in terms of terrain, resource distribution, military force distribution, and other map information. This map is well drawn. Zhou was a little surprised. Could it be that the Aurora Kingdom had a master cartographer? His gaze landed on a city called Cloud Gallop City, and he subconsciously focused his attention. The scene in front of him suddenly changed. Then, he realized that he had appeared in front of a ruined city. The city had already become a dilapidated ruin. Smoke filled the sky above the houses and shops. Hundreds of thousands of subjects were either saving people or looking for resources to use from the destroyed houses. Their homes had been destroyed, but many people's eyes were filled with determination. There was still hope for the future. Zhou heard the sounds of discussion. My hometown was destroyed by the monsters of the Taiyan nation. I wonder when my new home will be built. It will get better. The Taiyan Kingdom has been destroyed. Our future will definitely be better than before. I heard that the person who destroyed the Taiyan Kingdom was the legendary Lord of the Blazing Sun. He's no longer the Lord of the Blazing Sun. He's the King of the Blazing Sun of our human race. TSK, how unbelievable. How long has it been since he arrived on our high continent? He actually established a kingdom, and even wiped out that cruel and despicable Taiyan Kingdom? Not only that, but I also heard that the current king has long since intended to give up the throne to this king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. It's said that even the princess greatly admires the king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. If it's true, I hope that king of the Blazing Sun can let us live a better life. When Zhou heard these people's words, his gaze landed on a broken stone character that had fallen to the ground not far away. The word Cloud Galloping was half written on it. So, am I in Cloud Gallop City in reality now? The map brought me directly to Cloud Gallop City. Zhou was a little surprised. He walked to the subjects and realized that they couldn't see him at all. He tried to communicate and touch these subjects, but he realized that he could not do it either. In front of these subjects, his body seemed to be transparent and invisible. That's not right. I didn't come to Cloud Gallop City with my real body, but in the form of a consciousness. That's why these people can't hear me and can't touch me. Zhou quickly understood the reason. Was this the effect of that map? That map was actually such a magical treasure? Zhou was very surprised. King of the Blazing Sun, how does this great thousand rivers and mountains painting feel? At this moment, Li Yuangan's slightly amused voice came from the sky. Zhou realized. Only he could hear this voice. The other subjects could not. It's amazing, Zhou said sincerely. I also obtained this great thousand rivers and mountains painting by chance from a foreign vendor. It's very magical indeed. If you think about coming back now, you can return to reality. Li Yuangan said. Zhou's heart skipped a beat. The scene in front of him changed drastically. He had already returned to the Aurora Kingdom's treasury. Li Yuangan was looking at him with a smile. This great thousand rivers and mountains painting is a good treasure to observe the situation in my territory. Moreover, it will continuously increase the territory's range as the territory grows. In theory, the map of the entire high continent will appear on this great thousand rivers and mountains painting if you take control of it. Chapter 543 Talent. Ignore pain. However, when you use the great thousand rivers and mountains painting in the future, you have to pay attention to two things. When you use it to check the situation of the territory, if a powerhouse's perception is relatively sharp, they will sense you're spying. It's fine if we're on the same side, but you have to be careful if it's a powerful enemy. Also, If you use it often in the future, you can try to master the method of multitasking. This way, you can observe the situation on the map and pay attention to the situation in reality. Li Yuangan reminded, "Thank you for your reminder, father-in-law." Zhou thanked him. "We're family. There's no need to stand on ceremony." Li Yuangan smiled and shook his head. Zhou nodded. Then, his gaze landed on the Great Thousand Rivers and Mountains painting. He realized that the information displayed was exactly as Li Yuangan had said. Then he put it into his king's treasure box. After that, he walked around the entire treasure vault and realized that there were about 20,000 treasures here. After confirming that there were no other treasures worth paying attention to, he walked out. Outside the treasure vault, Zhou looked at the Great Thousand Rivers and Mountains painting in the box and smiled. He felt that his trip was not in vain because of it. The only pity was that he did not find any advanced gem resources here. It seemed that it was just as Li Yuangan had said. He had already handed all the high-level gem resources to him. After we take care of the Netherbark Kingdom, we'll deal with the Titan Kingdom and obtain its advanced gem resources. Zhou thought to himself. Advanced gem resources were related to territory upgrades and kingdom upgrades. At the thought of this, Zhou opened the conditions to advance to an intermediate kingdom. Then he realized that among the many conditions, conquering 2 beginner kingdoms that were not under the Crimson Overlord had changed from 0/2 to 1/2. Let's not talk about the other conditions. In terms of conquering beginner kingdoms, I still need to conquer 2 beginner Crimson kingdoms and 1 beginner kingdom that is not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. Zhou thought to himself. This was not difficult for him. They would start with the Netherbark Kingdom first. Then, he asked Bai Yin to bring the soldiers to collect the treasures in the treasure vault, while he and Li Yuangan returned to Zhongxian Hall. Then, Zhou called for help and called the Aurora Kingdom officials over again. A moment later, after everyone arrived, Zhou looked at everyone and said, "This king has decided to abolish the Aurora Kingdom's kingdom structure and completely integrate it into the Blazing Sun Kingdom." When the ministers heard this, even though they were already mentally prepared, many of them still looked disappointed. However, they also knew that this was inevitable. Otherwise, with the establishment of 2 kingdoms, even with a common lord like Zhou around, it would easily cause estrangement between the subject officials of the 2 countries. Therefore, no one had any objections. They all agreed respectfully. As for Li Yuangan, after hearing Zhou's decision, even though he was in a daze for a moment, he quickly returned to normal. He had already expected Zhou's decision and was not surprised. Zhou did not care about everyone's reaction. He directly stated his second decision. "I will give the first order as your new king. By tomorrow night, I want to see all the lords in the records of the original Aurora Kingdom. I want to meet them, and also take a look at their potential. If they have good potential and aptitude, this king will not be stingy with the rewards." Zhou said calmly. He naturally didn't give this order, just to meet the original lords of the Aurora Kingdom. More importantly, he wanted the Lord Talent crystal fragments on them. Zhou already had enough Lord Talents on him. Naturally, he would not kill his subjects just to obtain a new Lord Talent. That way, if his reputation of killing talented subjects spreads in the future, he would not be able to have any living beings with talent and potential rely on him. He still cherished his reputation as a lord who had the ambition to fight for the lord of all races. However, he would not let go of a single Lord Talent crystal fragment. When the ministers heard this, they did not think that this reason was strange, so they agreed respectfully. Zhou nodded and told them that in the future, officials from the Blazing Sun Kingdom would come over to arrange their new places and positions. Then, under everyone's worried or expectant gazes, he left with Li Yuangan. Blazing Sun City, beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. When Zhou and Li Yuangan returned, Leah happened to walk out of her room. The 3 of them looked at each other, and Leah was pleasantly surprised. "King Father." She ran over to the 2 of them in surprise. "Good daughter." Li Yuangan stroked his daughter's hair and said with a smile, "He'll settle down in Blazing Sun City in the future." We will spend a lot more time together as father and daughter in the future. Also, don't call me King Father anymore. Just call me Dad. Li Yuangan smiled. Dad. Li Yu returned the smile. I. Zhou smiled and left the father and daughter. After bidding them farewell, he came to the Lord's shop. At this moment, Zhou Qingmin was playing a game. Zhou did not think too much about it, and shouted directly, Old Zhou merchandise. Unexpectedly, when Zhou Qingmin heard this, he turned to look at him bitterly. Then, he stood up and shook his head. Sigh. I was expecting too much. I thought someone would stay up all night playing games with me. I've played all night for nothing. I've already cleared Street Fist 5 times, but the person did not come. Zhou finally reacted. Holy shit. He did plan to be here to play games with this guy. In the end, after he came back last night to settle some matters, he went to sleep with Li Ya. After that, he was attempted assassination on by the god spirit, and completely forgot about this matter. Ahem. I had too much to do last night, so I didn't have time to come to your place. Zhou explained. Zhou Qingmin nodded. He also knew that his lord had been attempted assassination on by a god spirit last night, but he did not really mind. He did not say much. He took out 3 items from under the counter and showed them to Zhou. Zhou looked at it. The first item was the talent crystal. Talent. Ignore pain, talent effect. When you are in a pain that exceeds your endurance limit, you can enter a special state of resistance and ignore the pain until the pain decreases to a level that you can withstand. Isn't this Wuxia's talent? Zhou was a little surprised. He nodded and decided to buy it. He did not think that he was an iron man who could withstand any pain. In addition, he should more or less participate in some battles in the future. This talent was quite useful to him. Then he looked at the other items. Chapter 544 Improving the Bloodline 1. The second item was a heart. It emitted the aura of fire and destruction. Zhou looked at it. Bloodline name. Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction Bloodline. Bloodline level. Low-level deity advanced grade. Bloodline effect. After absorbing it, the user can obtain the bloodline of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction. After fusing with this bloodline, the user will gradually awaken the bloodline ability of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction during the growth process. Not bad. Zhou nodded. His chaos human bloodline needed such a high-level bloodline as nutrients for his bloodline to improve. Then he looked at the last item. What surprised Zhou was that the last item was also a bloodline. Furthermore, it was the bloodline of the extreme dragon race. Tisk. I didn't expect to obtain 2 top-notch dragon bloodlines. Zhou was a little surprised, but then a smile appeared on his face. He was naturally satisfied with these 2 bloodlines. The only pity was the bloodline and talent goods of the original spirit race that he wanted the most did not appear. That was the bloodline and talent of the top races in the myriad worlds. Once he could obtain it, his chaos human bloodline level would definitely increase greatly. How much are these 3 goods? Zhou retracted his thoughts and asked. The bloodline of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction, an advanced grade deity, is worth 1,000 legendary tier mist cores and 1,000 legendary tier territory tokens. Low-level deity elementary grade extreme dragon race bloodline is worth 200 legendary tier mist cores and 200 legendary tier territory tokens. Zhou Qingmin said, this Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction's bloodline and the extreme dragon race's bloodline are both at low-tier deity level. Why is there such a huge difference in their prices? Zhou had thought that his wallet was already generous enough. However, when he heard Zhou Qingmin's bid, he was still shocked. Good God! A portion of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction bloodline of an advanced grade deity was worth 2,000 legendary tier mist cores. Are you too crazy about the mist core? There's naturally a reason for the Supreme Will to set such a price. Zhou Qingmin shook his head and pointed at the heart of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction. Even though the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction's bloodline level is only at low-level deity advanced grade, there is still a trace of the power of the Divine Dragon of Destruction bloodline in the depths of its bloodline. The dragon god of destruction is of true god tier advanced grade. No matter how small its bloodline is, others will buy it with true god tier divine crystals. 2,000 legendary tier mist cores are at most equivalent to 2 divine crystals. In that case, it's really not expensive. Zhou Qingmin said with an expression that said, "You've made a killing." Zhou's mouth twitched a few times. Now that you mention it, it really didn't seem expensive. My ass. Don't think that I don't know about the proportion of the destruction dragon god's bloodline in Nazario's body. I've seen Nazario's attribute information a long time ago. This amount of divine dragon of destruction bloodline only accounts for 1% of Nazario's total bloodline. And yet you're selling it at such an exorbitant price for such a small amount. Zhou was furious. However, he was also a little tempted by this 1% true god tier bloodline. He hesitated for a moment and looked at his heavenly mist treasure bag. After this period of accumulation, he now had more than 8,000 legendary tier mist cores. It was not impossible to take out 2,000 of them to buy Nazario's bloodline. However, his heart ached. He hesitated for a long time. Only then did Zhou reluctantly take out 2,400 legendary tier mist cores and 20 extraordinary tier mist cores from the heavenly mist treasure bag to buy these 3 items. He looked at Zhou Qingmin, who had returned to his seat to play games. He hesitated for a moment and decided to come over today to play games with him. While he didn't know if this method would increase the probability of good products being produced tomorrow, he would treat it as entertainment. In any case, there was nothing to lose. Then, he took the goods and returned to the beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. He first fused with his talent, Ignore Pain. Then, he fused with these 2 dragon bloodlines. He looked at the bloodline fusion notification. You have absorbed a portion of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction's bloodline. Low-level deity advanced grade. Your Chaos Human bloodline has unearthed more potential and advanced to the extraordinary tier intermediate grade. Your 6 senses powers have been greatly enhanced. You have awakened Diamond tier advanced grade enhanceable Chaos Human race talent, Elementary Chaos Heart. You have awakened the True God tier advanced grade Destruction Dragon God talent, Destruction Dragon Breath. You have awakened the True God tier advanced grade Destruction Dragon God talent, Fire Elemental Control. You have grasped part of the Dragon God's secret inheritance. You have mastered the low-level deity advanced grade racial skill, All Things Burn. You have mastered the low-level deity advanced grade racial skill Volcanic Eruption. You have mastered a true God tier advanced grade law skill, Destructive Power. Your master God tier physical immunity has increased from 3% to 5%. Your master God tier elemental immunity has increased from 3% to 5%. Your master God tier soul immunity has increased from 3% to 5%. You have absorbed 1 extreme dragon bloodline, low-level deity advanced grade. Your 6 senses have been slightly strengthened. You have awakened the talent of the extreme dragon race, low-level deity advanced grade, extreme dragon body. You have awakened the talent of the extreme dragon race, low-level deity advanced grade, extreme dragon power. You have grasped the secret inheritance of the extreme dragon race. Your master God tier physical immunity has increased from 5% to 7%. Your master God tier elemental immunity has increased from 5% to 7%. Your master God tier soul immunity has increased from 5% to 7%. Zhou raised his eyebrows. It was not unreasonable for Nazario's bloodline to be so expensive. He actually directly upgraded his Chaos Human race bloodline from Diamond tier intermediate grade to Extraordinary tier intermediate grade. Moreover, he had obtained the talents of 2 Destruction Dragon Gods and a law skill. Not bad, not bad. It felt expensive, but he was in a better mood now. As for the Extreme Dragon bloodline, it was a little unsightly. After fusing with the Extreme Dragon bloodline, the Chaos Human bloodline did not improve. Zhou shook his head and began to check the details of these abilities. The first was the Chaos Human's racial talent, Elementary Chaos Heart. Race talent name, Elementary Chaos Heart. Talent level, Diamond tier advanced grade, enhanceable. Talent description. Your comprehension and reaction ability have been greatly improved. You can easily comprehend professional abilities in various fields. Moreover, you have an extremely high comprehension ability of the laws of the world. Zhou raised his eyebrows. After the chaos human bloodline level increased to diamond tier advanced grade, it finally began to involve enlightenment. This was gradually compatible with the supreme comprehension described in the chaos sacred Bodhis ability. He looked at the next ability. Chapter 545 Improving the Bloodline 2. Race Talent Name. Destruction Dragon Breath. Talent Level. True God Tier Advanced Grade. Talent Description. You can release Dragon Breath with the aura of the Law of Destruction. Any substance that is attacked by the Dragon Breath of Destruction will suffer irreversible damage. Prompt 1. As the Lord of the End, the power of the end that can end all things is surging in your body. So the power of the Law of Destruction contained in your Destruction Dragon Breath has been greatly enhanced. Prompt 2. You have grasped the power of the weak Law of Destruction. Your Crown of the Finals ability has been slightly enhanced. When Zhou saw this, he raised his eyebrows and opened the information about the Crown of the Finals ability. Then he realized that the Crown of the Finals first ability had been strengthened. Divine Artifact Ability 1. Power of the End. As the Lord of the End, the power of the end that can end all things surges in your body. When you attack any matter, you have a 10% chance of shattering it. When attacking any life form, you have a 1% chance of directly killing it. The probability of shattering has increased from 10% to 20%. It's doubled. Zhou was surprised. It seemed that the Law of Destruction and the Law of the End were quite compatible. He looked at the next ability. Race Talent Name. Fire Elemental Control. Talent Level. True God Tier Advanced Grade Enhanceable. Talent Description. Your cultivation talent for fire elements is like the reincarnation of a fire god. There are very few life forms in the myriad worlds that can compare to you. You can easily comprehend fire elemental skill abilities, and even have a certain chance of comprehending fire elemental nomological abilities. When you cultivate to the legendary tier advanced grade, you can easily condense a top-notch fire elemental godhood. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. He had found yet another way to become a god in the future. Then he looked at the next race ability. Racial Skill Name. All Things Burn. Skill Quality. Low-level Deity Advanced Grade. Racial Skill Description. You are the monarch of the fire elemental. Under your command, everything in the world can be burned. Skill Quality. Low-level Deity Advanced Grade. Racial Skill Description. You can summon a volcano out of thin air and cause it to erupt violently, destroying all the life forms in a zone. Law Skill Name. Law of Destruction. Law Skill Quality. True God Tier Advanced Grade. Introduction to Law Skill Power. You have stepped into the threshold of the Law of Destruction and have grasped a trace of weak destructive power. When you use this destructive power to invade any substance, you can cause varying degrees of irreversible destruction to that substance. After Zhou saw the ability of the awakening of the Nazario bloodline, he looked at the other abilities of the Extreme Dragon bloodline. Race Talent Name. Extreme Dragon Body. Talent Level. Low-level Deity Advanced Grade. Talent Description 1. Your physical strength and soul strength have greatly increased. You can also be immune to any negative statuses below your own strength level. It also has a certain resistance and weakening effect on debuffs that are higher than one's strength level. Talent Description 2. You are immune to all instant death abilities. Race Talent Name. Power of the Extreme Dragon. Talent Level. Low-level Deity Advanced Grade. Talent Description. You have terrifying physical strength that is invincible among your peers. No living being of any race can compete with you in terms of strength among the myriad races in the myriad worlds. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. It had to be said. Even though the Extreme Dragon race only had 2 awakened racial talents, the talents of these 2 races could be said to be top grade. The former greatly increased the strength of his physical body and soul, and also gave him immunity to instant death type damage. The Void Mask that Zhou had obtained in the past Chapter 67, had a similar ability. However, that was still an external object. In the end, it was not as reliable as his own ability. As for the extreme dragon power, it also gave him terrifying power that was invincible among his peers. The Supreme Will said that no life form of the same level as him could compare to him in terms of strength after obtaining the power of the extreme dragon. This showed how terrifying this power was. After fusing the 3 items, Zhou did not waste any time and immediately arrived at the drill ground. Then, he saw the Blazing Sun Kingdom's army and the Star Alliance's lords and soldiers who were already prepared. A smile appeared on Zhou's face, seeing these 11 million people. With this power, he did not believe that the Netherbark Kingdom could withstand it. Today, our goal is still a kingdom. I won't waste my breath. Get on the spaceship. Let's go. After saying a few simple words, Zhou followed the soldiers onto Starry Night and flew in the direction of the Underworld Bark Kingdom. On the spaceship, Zhou was looking at the map of the Underworld Bark Kingdom. As the strongest kingdom among the 4 kingdoms, the Netherbark Kingdom had a huge territory. It had a total of 88 regional territories. Among them, there were 2 extraordinary tier regional territories, 8 diamond tier regional territories, 25 white platinum tier regional territories, and 51 yellow gold tier regional territories. There were not even any regional territories below the white silver tier. This was naturally fused by the Netherbark Kingdom with the territory fusion certificate. However, it could be seen how rich the other party was to be able to fuse to such an extent. If we follow our route, the first place we reach will be a diamond tier territory called Nether River City. Zhou looked at the map and subconsciously began to think about how to fight later. However, he quickly reacted. How else could they fight? With his overwhelming number of troops, he could just crush them. Reporting to your majesty. Wu Tu requests an audience. At this moment, Wu Tu's voice came from outside the door. Enter, Zhou said. As the door creaked open, Wu Tu came in front of Zhou. His expression was solemn, causing Zhou to be taken aback. Without waiting for him to ask, Wu Tu directly explained the reason for his solemn expression. Your Majesty, my heavenly map army has just sent a secret report. The Pope of the Netherbark Kingdom, Floyd, feared our strength. Yesterday night, he secretly joined forces with 16 people of foreign races, including the Titan Kingdom, to deal with His Majesty together. 16 kingdoms? Zhou was also a little surprised. This number was indeed a little ridiculous. Was this guy that influential? Zhou raised his doubts. He naturally doesn't have that much appeal. However, he used the excuse that you rose too quickly and threw out the killing weapon of the race, the divine artifact. That's why these 16 people of foreign races decided to join forces to deal with us. Wu Tu said with a solemn expression. Are they all beginner kingdoms? Are there intermediate kingdoms or advanced kingdoms? How many troops have they gathered? Zhou quickly asked the question he wanted to know. All 16 kingdoms are beginner kingdoms. As for their military strength, according to my intelligence report, they gathered more than 15 million troops last night. Today I'm afraid there will be more. Wu Tu said. Any other information? Not for a while. Explore and report. Yes. Wu Tu left. Zhou sat on the spot, deep in thought. In the end, he decided that even if the other party had a lot of troops, he had to bring all his subordinates to meet it. Firstly, since the other party had already joined forces, they would attack sooner or later. Since that was the case, there was actually no point in retreating now. Instead, it would expose his guilty attitude and make the other party even more arrogant. Secondly, even if he could not defeat the other party in the following battle, he had the means to retreat unscathed. Since that was the case, then he would test the other party's methods first. At the thought of this, Zhou stopped thinking and continued to order Wunya to advance towards the Netherbark Kingdom. A moment later, at the border of the Netherbark Kingdom, Diamond Tier Territory, Nether River City, Zhou and company arrived on a spaceship. Chapter 546 10 million level battle map. Looks like these people of foreign races are already prepared. Zhou looked at Nether River City and said faintly. In his perception, there were at least 5 million people of foreign races in Nether River City. In the past, such a military force was considered the entire Netherbark Kingdom's military force. Under such circumstances, either the other party knew that he was coming here, so they had gathered here early. But that was obviously unlikely. This was because Zhou had also decided to start a war here at the last minute. That left only one possibility. Floyd of the Underworld Bark Kingdom had long expected that he would bring his troops to attack. So he had long arranged for the huge troops, under his command, to be arranged in the border cities, with the other people of foreign races. Just Nether River City alone had 5 million people of foreign races stationed there. At the same time, Nether River City also seemed to have discovered the Blazing Sun Kingdom's spaceship hidden in space. A large number of soldiers from the people of foreign races either rushed out of the city gate, flew out of the city, or burrow underground. In the blink of an eye, the sky and ground of Nether River City were filled with dense soldiers of the people of foreign races. They looked warily in the direction of Zhou and the others, as if they were ready to fight at any time. This was not the end. Zhou noticed that the light of the teleportation array in Nether River City was constantly lighting up. A vast number of soldiers of the people of foreign races were walking out of the teleportation array in an endless stream. Then, they quickly replenished the troops here, causing the number of troops gathered in Nether River City to increase. 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million. In less than a moment, a total of 10 million soldiers of the people of foreign races were gathered in Nether River City. This was not the end. An endless stream of people of foreign race soldiers were still walking out of the teleportation array. Zhou was not afraid. Instead, he smiled faintly. He asked Wuxia to get the Starry Night to leave the spatial concealment state and appear in front of these people of foreign race soldiers openly. Then he called Suan Guoqiao and Qi Xiantian out of the spaceship and floated in the sky, looking down at the soldiers of the people of foreign races. "You're the king of the blazing sun?" he said calmly. His voice was filled with arrogance. "Floyd." Zhou looked at it. Then, his gaze landed on the more than 10 million people of foreign race soldiers around him. "You're making a big scene," he said. "It's all because of you. We can spare your life if you hand over the race's divine artifact, Lucky Star, and give up your status as a lord. Otherwise, this will become the place where you and your soldiers die." Floyd stared at Zhou and said. After saying that, he waved his right hand. A total of 23 existences, emitting the aura of heroes, flew out of the people of foreign race alliance and came behind Floyd. They looked at Zhou with different expressions. They were either impatient, cold, strange, or greedy. "Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Just kill him and take the race divine artifact from him. The robe he's wearing that exudes the aura of an emperor is not bad. I'll take it later. That sword seems to be a divine artifact of the race, but it seems to be a divine artifact of the human race. Even though it's useless to our race, it's not bad to collect it. Such a perfect human body. I want his corpse. He should have a celestial appearance. Such a top-grade body is worth a lot of Miss Cores." They discussed animatedly. Judging from their attitudes, they had already treated Zhou as theirs. "Do you see it? They're all heroes. Every one of them is an existence that can leave their name in the history of the race. You can't win. Surrender early, so you don't have to suffer too much," Floyd said calmly. It knew that the king of the blazing sun had tens of millions of soldiers. If they fought, even if it was 100% confident that it could win, it would probably lose a lot. Therefore, it wanted to use this method to minimize its losses. Zhou looked at it calmly. Are they taking him for a fool? If he dared to do that, he would definitely die faster than anyone else. Moreover, it was not certain who would win. He did not say anything and let all the soldiers fly out of the spaceship through the army interface. Seeing this scene, Floyd's expression darkened. And then, it waved its right hand. The next second, countless bows, arrows, cannonballs, long-range elemental spells, and all kinds of long-range attacks shot towards the spaceship. It actually wanted to use this period of time to attack Zhou soldiers. When Zhou saw this scene, he flipped his right hand, and a circular light barrier that emitted a black and white light appeared in his hand. It was the treasure he had obtained from the Taiyan Kingdom, Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier. The next second, Zhou threw the Sun and Moon Sky Barrier into the sky. Right on the heels of that, the Sun and Moon Sky Barrier suddenly enlarged. In the blink of an eye, it covered the sky and covered a radius of 10 kilometers, enveloping Zhou, the spaceship, and the soldiers. The tens of millions of long-range attacks released by Floyd's side landed on the Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier. In the end, they were stunned. After these tens of millions of attacks landed on the Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier, they only caused layers of weak ripples on its surface. It could not even break a small hole. When the 23 heroes of the people of foreign race saw this, they also frowned. They also attacked, but the strongest among them was only an epic tier elementary grade hero. Even though their attacks were also useful, they were not very effective against the Sun and Moon Sky Barrier that could resist the attacks of legendary tier elementary grade. This is the Taiyan Kingdom's national treasure, Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier? Floyd, who was watching the battle at the side, quickly recognized what this light barrier was. His expression immediately darkened. It had been enemies with the Taiyan Kingdom for hundreds of years, so it knew this information. It just did not expect that the King of the Blazing Sun did not keep such a treasure to protect his territory. He actually used it as a battlefield. It waved its hand to stop the soldiers' useless attacks. At the same time, Zhou looked at the people of Foreign Race Alliance army below, who had stopped attacking, and sneered. "You're done. My turn." He called Linger, Nong Chunglin, and the other 15 lords who were before the contribution ranking test in the Star Alliance over. Then, they used Insight Defection on the people of Foreign Race Alliance army below. A text notification appeared. Please choose the enemy lord faction you want to Insight Defection. 1 Taiyan Kingdom. 2 Titan Kingdom. 3 Ghost Lair Kingdom. 4 Rhoda Kingdom. 5 Flame Spirit Kingdom. Zhou did not hesitate and chose the Taiyan Kingdom, which was ranked first. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.